Okay. Yeah, I think we're good to go.
Yep.
So you've got mainly what I think a lot of questions about which classes kind of do what to kind of like feel out that kind of stuff. Well, for background, give us and give the stream and people on YouTube a little bit of background.
As far as like just my MapleStory background, or just
Well,
like
just like
just overall
yeah, your
from the
current
start of.
situation and what you want to get from the session, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, mainly just probably go over some of the like basic features, just some of the stuff just to like progress towards endgame once I figure out a main, and then the main is probably the biggest part. Just trying to figure out what I got. I wrote down a couple here, so I've been play testing some classes. I obviously haven't gotten crazy far, so
Mm-hmm.
it's not like I know, because I know some jobs change as you get to like fourth and fifth job and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to feel that out right now, trying to set that in, and then just try to work on Link's Legion and all that, just end game stuff, mid game, end game stuff.
Mm-hmm. So with all of that, and with you feeling out some of the game systems, to which extent have you found my commands helpful already? And do you have additional questions of existing ones that you have found?
So I saved your Legions and Links. That one is on my desktop, so I checked that out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Just going over, just trying to see what classes I should do next,
Mm-hmm.
and like just so the game doesn't get stale for me, I've been like trying a bunch out. I've checked some of the other ones, but I haven't checked all of them yet. So there's probably some that I still need to go over and just look at.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've watched like a ton of videos and looked up a bunch of guides on like Google and stuff like that too. So, but sometimes like looking at your guides are definitely very helpful. Like just trying to figure stuff out,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them are more like detail oriented. So,
Yeah, I try to stay. It's kind of difficult. I try to be detailed, but not too detailed in the sense that it's just like basically a 300-step guide on how to go from like logging in to killing the black mage kind of thing. I don't want to do that.
yeah.
I hope that I leave enough space for people to, inject what they want and just use the information to inform them and not to do everything for them, basically. That's always a little bit touch and go. Some of the guides go a little bit further. Some guides stop a little bit short. A lot of times people are like, oh, do you have like a gear progression guide so I could just like turn my brain off and just have everything, laid out in the future? It's like, I don't really want to do that one. I have the bossing and the dailies guide. I don't know if you've seen that one. Kind of.
Is that the one? Not like the one like the like where you should be at, right? Like your mid game, end game sort of thing, or is that like an actual just like something on the bosses itself?
Yeah, so the progression one takes that's the one you were talking about, right? Like how far you want to be at the different stages to kind of see how strong your character is.
Yeah, yeah, like certain bosses, like what your crit rate should be, all that stuff.
Yeah,
Like
so
that
this
one is.
yeah, so this is more like the other one that I have is more like a detailed explanation of the bottom part. Like that's just an excerpt basically.
Okay.
So if you've fill all of these quote unquote requirements, right? You're within those means, within those boundaries. Then I think you can. Well, I think the whole goal is that you can use your level as your as the number that determines like this is how strong you are. This is what you can do, basically. Because
Okay.
in the past people would use their damage range and then they would use stat, and like all of these have quite a lot of flaws. So I feel like if you combine a lot of those numbers together and a lot of those metrics, and you get to one metric that makes sense, I think a level is a good one because that also takes into account final damage differences based on levels and all of that stuff, which is another layer on top of like you can have all the damage you want, you can have all the boss damage, you can, but and even all of the IED, and you can have high boosters and everything. But if your level isn't there, then you still won't be able to hit as hard, So since all of these situations have to be met, what I think is the ultimate goal is that if you hit all of these, all of these goals basically, that you oh, don't do that. That you can use your level as a placeholder, and then in the dailies grid you can kind of see like what is the value of all of the content in the game, and they've got links to the fandom page as well, where you get more detail about the boss and like skills and drop tables and all that stuff, like full drop tables. Equip item has like the more important stuff on what you can get there, and you can get some kind of idea as well of like soul shards and all of that stuff. I believe the Black Mage does not have a soul though. And like the value of the crystals and stuff, so you can kind of see like which bosses would be good to do in a daily and weekly basis to make money. And then the second page basically looks at all of this content and kind of like looks at where do I think it's worth doing on your account. That's not to say that you have to do all of these, you know. I made it yellow and blue for colorblind stuff. It was like red and green in the beginning, but people were like, what about colorblind people? Like, okay, true. So it's kind of divided in the same way under like early game, mid game, late game, and end game, right? In the same way as the other command is now. But yeah, based on your level, you can more clearly see like, okay, these are dailies, weeklies, and some extra information sometimes. And again, these have the same links as well if you need like detailed information. So like if you don't know where to go at all, this could be like a starting point, and then you can see like, okay, these I think are very useful. These are not as useful. I can skip this one. This one I would do longer, whatever. And yeah, so these two together I think are very strong. Together with the links and Legion, I think already gets your whole account to a very solid point in the game where you can make sure that you don't forget anything that's super important, and at the same time gives enough freedom that you can still play the game how you want, because you'll know what those important things are, so you don't have to feel like you're missing out a whole bunch of stuff. The only thing that will be on top of this extra is like the current ongoing events, because some of those might be very impactful for a beginning player or for a person in whatever stage of the game that you're in, and some might just be whatever, and you can just safely ignore it. It's not really important for you. So
okay, yeah, because I've been trying to take, especially I watched your video on like the night troop and stuff like that. And just paying attention to the event. I did for the first set, I did the bonks and stuff. Like I was messing with my arc, and I got him from like 131 to I think it's 176 now or something like that in 2 days. So just something like that, just trying to get that, you know, to level 210 just for the extra links and stuff. And I wanted to ask you about that too, probably later on, is just about like level 200 and above, just like because I feel like there's just things that I don't know about that, you know, as far as increasing damage and just stuff like that, because I want to try to, you know, I keep seeing things about, you know, one-shotting mobs and just making mobbing easier for you, so but just doing some of that stuff, I just feel like I just don't know exactly where I should be with that stuff.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that like trickles in, right? So like your inner ability isn't available in the beginning, becomes available a little bit later through quest. Hyper stats only start becoming available at level 140. Hyper skills trickle in one at a time to help your mobbing and to, you know, facilitate the progress towards 200. Hyper skills you slowly get points in, right? Like your actual fourth job skills are maxed pretty early compared to all these other ones. And then once you have all of your skills and you learn a little bit more how all your skills work, then you get all of these other sources of damage that will help like facilitate getting to 200. Of course, if the only way you get from there to 200 is by relying heavily on those things, you'll hit like a pretty big wall at like around 175, 180, or like 170, 175 if it's a new character and if the Legion is relatively small. So another way to do it is by, you know, doing bosses and by upgrading your equips and working a little bit on that, and then enhancing the equips themselves as well a little bit. So that's why this thing is here, right? Because it also takes into account, in the beginning there's almost no bossing, so it's pretty simple. Like you can do Zakum and get an eye and a face accessory, and that's pretty much it. You can do some really small niche stuff and get some like level 20 accessories that, you know, but what a lot of people think usually in the beginning is they look at their equipment inventory, right, and it's like, okay, there's so many slots, I have to just fill all the slots and that'll make me strong. Some of that helps to an extent, but it's more about upgrading the right stuff at the right time. Like if you use the right stuff on like your secondary or your emblem early on, that potential can cover like 6 or 7 other equips combined. If those are just like shitty low level things, even if they have like a small set bonus, it just won't do all that much. So if you want to do that, that's totally cool. But if you're doing that for the purpose of getting your account stronger, then that's pretty inefficient. So,
okay, so
yeah, the main ways and the main stuff is like, it's all here. Like there's nothing really missing. You're not gonna completely miss out on some insane amount of stuff if you follow this. The only thing right now is I don't have Oz in here, so I'm probably gonna be including that at some point. Because yeah, it slowly gets updated, right, as new content comes out and all that.
Yeah, so is Oz something you can do at like a lower level, or is that because I saw you doing some of that? I'm still not familiar with it, but is that something that you would do like at a higher level more or less, or is that something that you could do at like
Yeah,
a
it's
lower
pretty high
level too?
level. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Because it like multiplies all the work you've already put in. So if you use it super early, percentage-wise, it just won't add that much to you, and it's a huge RNG slot fest. So you just keep opening boxes over and over and over, and there's a very good chance that you don't get anything for a long time. And in the beginning, percentage-wise, just leveling, unlocking more stuff, slowly upgrading the things, it can be done way faster and can give you guaranteed way bigger upgrades than going for Oz. You start doing Oz later when every single upgrade is so expensive that you're unironically being like, okay, do I spend like 600 hours for like a guaranteed upgrade, or for like a decent chance of a ring? And then comparatively, the ring will upgrade so much that it would be like thousands of hours worth of money, basically, if you get it, and then it becomes worth it.
Okay, so it's something I wouldn't even want to focus on just yet. That's probably something
No,
down the
no,
road
I
then.
would put that for very low in the list here. I would put that like
Okay.
level 250 plus area, yeah.
Alright, because I had, like, my Demon Avenger I did during that was my second burning character for the Neo event.
Mm-hmm.
And, I worked on, like, I kind of messed with it to, like, try to play as, like, I was going towards endgame, sort of, or, like, mid-game, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was doing, like, the Commercy stuff, I was trying to get, like, the next thing I was going to work on was my secondary. I got, like, a trait potion from the event, so I got, like, I used the stone right now, but I was trying to get the pink bean cup. I was struggling on that boss a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
on the, like, last phase. So just trying to work towards like things like that. Some of my potentials a little bit too. Just trying like different things just to see. And then I dabbled a little bit with arcane stuff, which I still really barely know about. I kind of do a little bit, but nothing crazy. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I was trying to level up. But Demon Avenger, I was doing it with that 4 times event, and I mean like it feels okay, but like if I was one shotting, it would feel like way better. But it's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of meh. So.
Yeah, Demon Avengers doesn't have like great hitboxes on their skills, so like their AOE's are pretty limited. Plus their mobility and AOE's and skills like doesn't really combine very well. Like you have to be either attacking or moving. That's also like a little bit of a downside, but it'll depend on like what kind of playstyle you're looking for in general, right? Like I don't know if from other games that you played or other types of games you play, like what usually fits your playstyle. Like what do you usually gravitate towards?
So usually, like, I'm usually, especially in like MMOs, because I played World of Warcraft and stuff like that, and like I always gravitate more towards like mage classes and whatnot. Like
Mm-hmm.
just like range DPS is something I like. I mean, I also do like warriors and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
That's like kind of like my secondary. I mean, playing even like some of the classes at like lower levels still kind of have a feel for what you're going to be doing later game.
Mm-hmm.
And just I've been watching a bunch of like fifth job videos just to get a feel of
Yeah.
how it's going to be, obviously because I want to, my goal is to get to 275 and do black mage and all that, but obviously
Mm-hmm.
that's later on. And just kind of feel like, once I was able to, count progress so far and one shot stuff, like how easy training would be with some of these. And I do also want like something that can boss pretty well too, but like I don't want a mindless mobber, but at least something like that can grind pretty easily and it's not like super crazy.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to like, okay, yeah. So when it comes to like so I guess you want a decent mobber just because you don't want to take too long to get to the level. Is that fair to say? Yeah. Because you want a
it's like,
boss, but you have to get there in a decent time as well. Because if it takes forever to get there, then that's not cool either.
yeah, and even watching like I've been watching Sacrix's videos on like the 200 to 250 for some of the classes he has out, and
Mm-hmm.
just like seeing some of those. I have like a whole, I think I have 12 potential mains on this list that I wrote out,
Mm-hmm.
just to kind of see what I'm just like looking at classes like the play style and just stuff like that. And obviously some of them are dependent on certain things like ping and other things, but some of them I've been feeling out. I'm like, okay, I like this class, and then like obviously when you get to fifth job it's better, and then some of them I'm kind of like I have to stick it out a little bit just to get a better feel for it, just to see what it
Mm-hmm.
looks like.
Yeah, and as you go and as you're building, of course, Legion and Link's getting stronger will give you different aspects of different classes will be able to shine better. Better, like a lot of the things that a lot of the classes have early on is that their crit rate is typically pretty bad early on, which means that their critical damage is not applying, which means that the characters are just start off very weak. That's when once you build out your Legion more and you get access to more grid, it's going to be a good idea to start investing more into the critical rate and the critical damage instead. That's going to start increasing your damage way more than just attack and dex or whatever the main stat is at that given time. In the beginning, of course, like those are the best things to invest in, but once you start expanding your grid, you want to start moving more towards the critical rate and the critical damage as long as you're not bossing yet, right?
Okay, so as far as like leveling and stuff, especially lower, like now that I have like a tiny bit, like obviously as I grow my Legion, so should I more or less put it in crit rate and crit damage just to get 100% crit rate, and then that way to do that more, because that'll probably help my characters either one shot or at least get close to one shotting your level a little bit quicker then, right?
Yeah, so I have video on like the hyper skills, and that's like 140 plus, and I've got like the links and Legion grid, right? You basically want to look at all the axes of all the stats in like basically the same order as the link and Legion grid, like as the first row there, right, with the colors. So like all the yellow stuff, if you can get to that earlier, like just pump it, and then once you hit like a max that you're you know, if you hit a max, then you go to the next one. But it's most of the time it's going to be like the same priority there. And if you look at the hyper skill video on like how to distribute your hyper skills and such in a more efficient manner, it's going to look at the same stats pretty much in the same order as well for the same reasons. Is because when you're mobbing or bossing, you want to always be hitting crits. So crits is the most important thing. If your crit is at 100 and you can get crit damage, then that's going to like improve your damage by pretty much the most you can do. If you're bossing and your IED is where you want it to be, then you go into boss damage. If your ID isn't where you want it to be, you need to fix the ID first, right? Because that's the penetration, that's the armor pen. And the harder the boss is, the more of your damage is going to get blocked. So that's more important that it's there. If you get a lot of damage, but you don't get any pen, none of your damage goes through. If you get too much pen, then you're losing out on possible damage. So then it comes down to a balance. But that's much further in the game. When it comes to the Legion and the links, a lot of it is going to be providing that critical rate, critical damage, ignore defense, and boss damage, both in the link skills, both in the member bonuses, and in the grid bonus. That's where a lot of that stuff is going to come from. Some classes that you end up maining have very solid kits and have all of these things already, and you don't have to rely very much on Legion to get them started, and they can boss very well on top of that. Some classes will rely on that a lot, but then once you have it, they will like be crazy good.
So yeah, because I know it's like more like a case-by-case basis, because I know, like you said, and I watched like some of your videos too where you talk about, like, I know some classes, you know, obviously have different passives and they gain crit rate really easily, and some of them don't. It's like, you know, obviously you have to fund those a little bit differently and kind of min-max on certain things as far as like crit rate, crit damage, and just make sure you don't blow over, like you said, just so you don't waste potential damage and output and whatnot. So I've been like watching a lot of that just to kind of get a feel for it, and obviously like once I find my main, I'll be able to easily, you know, I'll be able to tackle that better just because I'll know what I'm looking for and be able to, you know, apply links better and just, you know, my Legion and just stuff like that just to get better with the class, I guess.
And since you want to black, are you specifically looking just one character to go like all in on, basically?
I mean, what I want to do is, because like I'm still throwing around the idea too. I would like to have like probably 2 mains, like upper one for now, just to get up to like 250. Try to push for 275, and just kind of main that as my class, and then eventually like have something on the side too, like have a secondary class that I like really like too, that I can level up and you know, push that further as well. But I just want to focus. I do want to focus on one character right now, just to kind of, you know, because I feel like if I focus on too many things at once, I like won't get the class up. I'll just be like pushing 2 characters, you know, to 200, 210.
Yeah, you'll be just
like
filled up on dailies and not much time to really fill the character, right?
Yep, yeah. Like I definitely do want to do like I watch your videos a lot, like how like especially stream where you do like mules and stuff, like just things like that too. Eventually, to where like I'm bossing mules, you know, get some characters that maybe I do like, but you know, maybe just use them for bosses and stuff like that, just to get, you know, the crystals and just like drops and stuff like that too. So, but that's obviously something I'd worry about later on. Probably once I hit 250, maybe I would I would think about doing that instead, like leveling a secondary character to like, you know, 225 and just maybe a little bit higher than that, and just start working on them too, just as like a side thing.
So you've got you got 20 characters now, or do you have like some more that are like under level 60?
I think I have I think I have like 3 slots. One, like some of them I just maybe made just to have, and then like I think like right now I have a dual blade, It's only like, I think it's level 1. I have like another resistance class that I can make, like as far as like Wild Hunter or like Blaster or something like that. Because I was gonna probably do Wild Hunter for the I forget what their Legion skill is, but I know it's potential damage, isn't it, for them?
Sorry, which character did you say? Blaster?
Wild Hunter. I think Wild Hunter has potential damage, right? For their
yeah, damage at a chance, yeah.
Yep, yeah, because I think I just have those two, but those were just like some that I was throwing around because I was slowly, like, I was usually just taking one character and trying to get them to 120, and then just doing daily Zakuma runs with them, and then the other characters I was just leveling to 70, so that way I didn't get burnt out with playing certain classes, because some classes are to me are very like,
not your favorite.
Like yeah, like Blaze Wizard is like, all right, dude, I just want to get it to 140 and get it over with and be done with it, and just like. But then there's some classes that I actually enjoy, and I'm like, all right, cool, I can level this, you know, I can level this way easier than that. So that's why, like, you see a lot of them stopped at 70, and once I do that, I'll start doing, like, you know, I'll push them to 100. You know, slowly, and then I'll like start doing Zakuma runs on them while I level one character, and then just switch as I, you know, get them to 120 and 140 as I go, just to kind of progress better.
Okay. Yeah. So what kind of well, should we look at the main, like which ones you've written down, and kind of like go through? So I have have you seen my classes tier list basically? It's a lot of work, but.
Is that the one with like the like their mobbing, bossing,
Yep.
stuff like that? Yeah, I've looked at that grid before, and I was looking at DPM charts, but obviously that stuff doesn't matter. As you know, depending on if you like a class or whatnot.
Yep. Has that informed your decision, or has that raised more questions, or?
I mean, like looking at that, like I don't care if my class is like, you know, the highest. Like, obviously, if it was, I'd be like an Adele main or something like that. So like, I mean, I think all the classes are pretty good. It's just more or less like what a fit is for me and what's fun. I'd rather just do that and enjoy it than, you know, blow everything up and fly through the game, because I know even playing Kana to 140, it's like that drug that, you know, you don't want to quit because it's so easy just to level and everything like that. You're just
For
like,
sure,
yeah, I'm gonna put this one away and not touch it again, because otherwise it would be my main. So
people end up with it, yeah. A lot of people are like, well, I'll just do the Kana just for a little bit, and then, yeah, year later, Kana main, running black mage.
They're 275. They have everything.
And it's like, well, might as well main it, yeah. And it makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a really good class, so I mean, yeah, it's not weird that happens, of course.
No, and I mean, like, for that class, it's aesthetically pleasing. I mean, it does a lot of damage, and obviously Kishin's still a thing. So like, it's just a crazy good class overall. Like, don't get me wrong, I've thought about maining it, but I'm like, nah, I'm okay on that.
The requirements to like get into boss parties are very low, so you can start running bosses very quickly. That gets you gear faster. Like, yeah, it's positioned like perfectly to take advantage of the game, basically.
Yeah,
so
and I mean that might be a thing too. Like, I don't know, maybe I do make Kana like a secondary main or something like that, as you know, down the road. Or I've like, because Adele is really cool too. Like, I like Adele, but I mean, there's like a million of them. So that's the thing too, is like, I don't care if like I play a class that's less played, because I like looking at that.
But you do care if it's more played?
It doesn't really matter too much. Like, one of them I have on here is Demon Slayer. Obviously, Demon Slayer is I don't want to say a pretty heavily played class, but I think it's an up there. It's probably like top 10, I would say, out of all the classes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Just because of
yeah.
Yeah. So which I just, for me, like a class, it's more or less like how it plays. Again, with the bossing and mobbing, and then aesthetically, like just stuff like that. And just watching like their fifth job, like how their fifth job like seems, if it's like, you know, just some of the skills, like just stuff like that. Not that you should base it off of a class. Looks cool, but I mean, like, I don't have Arc on here, but Arc is actually like really fun to play. Like, that's why I've been trying to get it to 210, but like just overall, like the skills and stuff are really cool and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so.
Especially not if the skills look cool, actually, because the further you get, the more you have to play with skill transparency, and then you lose that aspect. So.
Yep, that's why like I'm enjoying it for now.
Yeah.
But like, I know later on it's gonna go away, so I'm like, which is fine, but it's like, and eventually I know I'm gonna have to cross that road.
Yeah, sadly, yeah. I mean, it does look cool, but yeah, you don't know if it like makes the Member League worse or anything like that, so you don't want to take any risks. if you're gonna take long training sessions and stuff, you don't want to make the game even less stable than it is. So you have to be a little bit careful with everything, sadly.
Yeah, and I also like even too like sometimes it's hard to actually like see stuff on your screen if you're if you're doing all the skills and some of them are like crazy big and whatnot. So
Yeah. Well, for
like obviously if
bossing,
you're
definitely.
bossing,
Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah, yeah. So especially that, but yeah, if you want, I can run down just the 12 that I have because I had like a bunch. I think I had like 18, almost 20 at one point, and then I like as I played the classes or just stuff like that or saw things like I kind of like lowered my list a little bit
Yeah,
to
you have to.
some of the classes I played.
You have to funnel it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, because
So,
even like it was funny because Evan was like Evan aesthetically and everything. Like when I originally played the game, like that was my favorite class, and then playing it to 200, I never wanted to touch it again after I get it to 210. So like just the combo aspect of it is just like just the class overall. I mean, it's like a nice class, but it's just I just can't do that. So it's definitely like not something for my playstyle. But
so what your ping is? You're in NA, right?
yeah, I'm on the East Coast in
Yeah.
NA, so
Sure
I'm in
think so.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So it's probably like 80 to 100 or something.
I think it's roughly. I didn't get a chance to check it really, but I think it's roughly about that. So.
And well, before you get to the list, so you
Yep.
mentioned before, like in WoW, you play mage, you play warrior. You mentioned like ranged. That's not really. So like ranged is probably the thing in Maple that's disappeared the most. Every class has like a pretty, I would say healthy, but like it has a balance between ranged and melee stuff. And most, like, there's no like quintessential ranged character really that like sits at the opposite side of the map. Like marksman is probably the longest range, but that's about it. And when it comes to melee, it's I think really only battle mage that's really melee, but everyone else is kind of like just mid range, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean like in this game it's a little bit different because you're not like
Yeah, you're stuck in a smaller
obviously-
map, yeah, in 2 dimensions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like you're like in WoW where you're like running around and there's like a you can run around a circle or do whatever you want and sit back and like not really have to be up close and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Around
yeah,
the
so I
around
mean,
the
like,
pillar to dodge a sheep and stuff like that. Yeah, it's not really don't really do that here. Yeah.
Nah, so yeah, it's like that's why like I mean some of these classes it's more just like seeing fifth job and just play style in general. Like some of these classes like I used to play MapleStory like way back when, just when some of these classes came out. So like obviously they've changed a bunch over the years and like some of them I haven't touched just yet. So but just by watching videos like I can kind of get a feel of like if I would kind of like it or not, or just kind of what it brings to everything. So
okay. Well, cool. We'll get to the list, and then we'll see if I see some common threads, and then if you can extrapolate from that, who would be the biggest chance haver, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, you do that. So, do you want me to just run off all 12 quick, and then
yeah, you
do
just
you
go
want to
through
just
it.
go like one by
Yeah.
one? Okay. So I have Battle Mage, Beast Tamer, Luminous, Ilium, Xenon, Demon Slayer, Dawn Warrior, Kaiser, Wind Archer, Mechanic, Jet, and Shade are my potential 12 there.
And do you have any kind of like motivations per class? From what you've seen, like why did they make the list? I guess.
Yeah, so I could run down it. So Battle Mage, I just like the fifth job skills. Like the grinding looks amazing after fifth job. Obviously it's a little bit tougher with bossing just because I know you have to like teleport a lot and stuff like that, which isn't like would turn me off or anything like that. So I mean like that's mainly why I picked that one.
You're a bit more of support as well when it comes to bossing. So you're not going to be doing like you're probably never going to be the person in the party who's doing like the most damage, but you will add a lot of damage to the party by being battle mage. You got a big debuff on the boss that makes everyone do more damage. Plus you get a big shield that can help the whole team in survivability. So for like especially for endgame content, they're pretty wanted for that reason because they can still also put a decent amount of damage in. But yeah, it's pretty heavy on the key input. The telecasting is very important to do properly.
Okay, yeah, because I know, because that's the thing too, is like I do like some of the support classes in this game. Like I think that like the support classes are like cool for what they provide to the parties, especially late game. So like that's another reason why I do like Battle Mage, and even that's the thing for like Beast Tamer
Also
too.
Beast
I
Tamer's
thought
on there,
like, Yep. So like, is that way I like that class. I mean, I like the fact of being able to switch to different modes, like bear mode, stuff like that. I haven't played it much. Obviously, I think I only have it at level 30, because I created that during the Neo event. But I would do want to like level it up and get it up there. Like I do, and I did see like a lot of the obviously there's a lot of class changes that just came out. So things
Mm-hmm.
have changed with certain classes, and classes may be way better now than they were.
Yeah.
Um, and I know Beast Tamer for a while was kind of like on the lower end of things, but I feel like with the buffs and stuff, they definitely got a lot better. So, and their grinding is obviously with Trumpet and everything is just crazy as at fifth job from what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they lack in that department. And I think bossing wise, like I think I watched your Project CRA video on
Mm-hmm. It
that
was
too, and it's
surprising,
like
yeah.
yeah, like they feel like really I don't know they feel like a good class to play like overall, and I just have fun like with the tiger skill or the leopard skills and all that stuff.
Yeah, the main thing is just like late and end solo is just a joke. It might have changed a little bit with the wind up of the skill, like the with the like the slapping with the bear and everything, but you're like way on the lower end if you're gonna do solo bossing. But yeah, for party bossing, like you have burst, you've got really like unique type support capabilities that other classes might not have. Really nice mobility and survivability in boss fights. But you're really more heavily than like a battle mage. Are you an actual support there? You do more supportive stuff, but your actual damage output for late and end is going to be very very much on the lower tier compared to like what the whole team is putting out.
Yeah, because for Beast Tamer, you're mainly in cat mode, right? For a lot of bosses, especially with all the buffs and stuff that
Yeah,
they
I think you
give
switch
and everything like
around. I,
that. Okay.
I think you do like you're in cat. I believe you're in cat to make sure that you apply the buffs that everyone else bursts hard, and then you switch into your burst as well as much as you can. Like, but your own burst is going to be on the back burner compared to making sure that everyone else deals more damage instead.
Okay, and with that, like, for that, would so when you switch to cat and then switch over to like bear or something like that, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
does that take away your party buffs if you swap like animals and stuff, or does that still
Um,
apply?
God, we have like an intricate. There's some stuff. Some stuff applies. Um, there's like the whistle hyper skill that temporarily enables like all the skills from all the forms, which is kind of bonkers. Like it depends on how you build your character.
Okay.
But like the whistle will take like your functional IED to like close to 100% and stuff because
Wow.
there's like a 60% and a 40% skill somewhere in your kit. So if it activates everything, it's crazy. But Beast Tamer is one of those classes that's not really. I don't know if they're like 100% figured out, and it also might be possible that there's a bunch of viable paths that people just who like different playstyles just play different ones. And also, whenever a patch like this come out, it's very possible that people just move stuff around. I know that a lot of people like the bird form since the last major rework. Some people just are always in bird form, like for both bossing and mobbing. But it comes down to like optimizing for certain stuff. Sometimes people also switch their like SP, their skill points around between mobbing and bossing, depending on where you're gonna be mobbing. Right, if you want to go to an area, you're just gonna, just do the bear fire, and then some other areas people just go bird mode and just bomb the whole thing. It can definitely depend also on where you're training and what you're doing.
Yeah, because a lot of like I mean I looked up a lot of like skill build guides for that, and like I know a lot of them were more towards like leopard and bear as you're leveling up, and then I think as you get like you eventually put stuff into hawk mode and whatnot, just
Yeah,
to
yeah.
just and like you just fly around and your little birds come out and you kill everything on the map. So obviously you'd have to be like pretty funded, but just things like that I've seen, and obviously you can like mess around with it, and you could always SP reset and stuff if you want to change it up too. So I've seen a lot of that too. So I feel like it's very experimental until you get to like the higher levels. Then it's kind of like you have to min-max your stuff.
Yeah, and as you get to know like other beast tamers as well, and as the guides get more intricate and as things get updated, certain stuff, especially if you like different playstyles, the fact that you can find a multiple within, and you're already like, looking towards mages, and you're also okay with like the being more supportive and stuff. It does have a lot of different possibilities there for you.
Okay, yeah, because I know that class too is like it's got a lot of I like the utility almost, like how it's got like a bunch of different things, like it could
Mm-hmm.
boss, it could mob, just obviously you switch to different things, and then also the party buffs too. It was a big thing for me. Like I like that, and it looks like cat mode actually got like a decent amount of changes to where like it's more viable or whatnot. I know you said best support potentially, but I don't know, it just looks like it's going to be better overall. So that's one thing that I kind of lean towards a little bit too, was that class. I mean, that's something I kind of like, so
Mm-hmm.
that might be a potential,
Mm-hmm.
but I still have to see.
Yep.
And then Luminous, Luminous, I just like. I mean, the mobbing is crazy easy with reflection and all that stuff. And then I feel like just bossing. The only thing for me that like I only have one that's like level 30 or something, or like low 20 or 20 something,
Sure.
and just I mean, the teleport just feels like super clunky, which I know
Yep.
that's like the biggest thing. But
Yep.
I mean,
That's the
it's
one
probably
big thing.
something as I get to higher levels I can probably get over. But that was the biggest thing for Luminous for me, was just the teleport. I know it's probably the worst in the game. So it
That
was
sticks with people like all the way throughout. You kind of have to get used to that. Yeah. I mean, once you're in, I keep wanting to say Equinox. Once you're in Equilibrium, your teleport probably becomes one of the best in the game, and you can like double teleport and air teleport, and then it's basically like a beast tamer. Sorry, not a beast tamer, like a battle mage teleport on crack, that you can double up on. So that's why you rely pretty heavily on getting buff duration and stuff like that. In order to make it so that you can, when you manually change into equilibrium, that you extend the duration by quite a bit. Oh no, not when you manually, sorry. It doesn't apply to that one. But like when it automatically activates, that you can stay transformed longer. Kind of similar to like Kaiser, right? Where once you're in a transformed form, you can do a whole bunch of extra stuff. And you really want buff duration. The downside to that is that if you do rely on buff duration, although I don't think, yeah, it kind of means that you will need a bigger legion to like maximize your character, right? Because you're going to be looking at critical damage. You don't need that much critical rate for Lumi because they got that new change, which makes the critical rate actually a lot easier to get. But you probably
okay.
want IED for boss, for bossing later, and the boss damage, and then also the buff duration. And if you want to fill out 4 grids on the outside, you're basically looking at a guaranteed 8k Legion requirement at that point.
Okay, so that would obviously that'd be something that I would focus on like later down the road. Because I think, I mean, right now 6K Legion's probably, I think, like the first benchmark you want to hit from what I've seen a lot. So that would probably be, and then
Yeah.
like that would more or less, after I hit that, and pick a main, just kind of shoot for 8K after that, or just slowly level up other characters to get to that point. Then.
Well, to be fair, I think it's probably a good idea to have like it narrowed down and to kind of start a character and start investing more time into it once you hit like 3k at the latest, I would say.
Okay.
Because at 3k you already get a pretty big boost, right? You get the second ring around the board that you get available, plus you get to put 5 extra characters in. So that's usually a pretty big boost. At that point, you could put a whole bunch of 140s in there. That should give you like more coverage, way more crit rate, way more critical damage, and every single character that you make from then on is going to be way faster, way stronger as well. But the main thing is that you want to start building up your arcane power as soon as possible, because that's a huge time gate, and the faster you get that started, the faster you'll be finished. And you always need a bit of a buffer because just as you enter a new area, it's always going to be difficult to start training in a new area as soon as you get in there, right? Because the requirement is up. You might get a new symbol in the beginning, but you need 50% bonus to keep up the 50% final damage on arcane power. And every new area, that 50% is going to be represented by a larger number. So every new area you get into is going to be harder and harder to start training there immediately when you get access to it. And because of that, it's going to be a good thing to have a little bit of a buffer where you can be like, okay, I'm going to ease off the training a little bit, maybe work a little bit more on Legion now, just focus on maybe daily bosses, dailies for arcane symbols and stuff, and weekly bosses on the main, and then focus a little bit more on Legion. And then once the Legion, takes gets like a big benefit, and the main gets more arcane power, then I can start actively training, and then you can get more value from your coupons and stuff.
Okay, so it's more or less like if you want to get a certain arcane power, but once you hit like that wall, you kind of want to back it up, start working on Legion again, just to get more damage, stuff like that. Get your arcane dailies and get your level up and whatnot. Because even I know like Demon Avenger, I did like right out the gate as soon as I hit 200 and hit the new area after 5th job, I put I put like some of that into my hyper stats. Like I think I did like 6 or 7, and like as I slowly leveled, I would put more into that just to get like the 1.5 damage bonus and stuff when I'm like. So it feels a little bit better when you're mobbing, so you're not like, taking 20 hits to kill one thing and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I've seen some of that stuff too, and I'm sure obviously there's different min-max things that eventually I'll get to once I get higher up and get more crit damage and finally like one-shotting things as I go through.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much that. Because in the beginning, you can, like, if you join a guild, you can probably pretty easily get, is it 20 or 30 arcane power, right, from one of the guild skills. And 30 in the beginning just means by itself that's already the 50% requirement. But once you get into a Sphera or like in Moonbridge, I think the 50% bonus is represented by like 500 or something, or like 400 plus. And it's like, yeah, you can't just like get a new symbol or like do dailies for a week and get like 3 levels. That doesn't cut it, right? So you have to, by that time, you have to be able to back it up with other sources as well. Like you want your boost nodes, like your skills to be boosted higher. You want your skill nodes probably to be a little bit leveled up, right? And that's why the progression milestones, why the levels are there. And that's why I don't have like, hey, be 6k Legion first before you get your main to 210, right? That's why I have like 1k here, work up to like 4k there, right? To kind of like evenly distribute your time between things. It is perfectly possible that you're like, hey, I like leveling a lot of characters. I want to just get like 6k Legion out first, and then we're gonna pick my main. I'll have like a bunch of but you can get 6k Legion without having many 200s at all, right? You can only get like, if you have 2 or 3 characters that are just at 5th job, everything else is 140, and then a few of them are like bonked up from events and are like around the level 170 mark. You'll be over 6k Legion already at that point. But then you still won't have really any first-hand experience with 5th job. So I wouldn't wait too long on narrowing it down. But hopefully we can narrow it down to like 3 or 4 now, and then it'll give you way more time available to like dedicate to these. And if it's really none of these, well then you can go to like your second choice or whatever, or like your 5th choice. But it's probably most important to like narrow it down a little bit. Yeah. So we're saying Luminous. Yeah, Luminous is yeah, it's great mobbing. The teleport is a little bit yikes. That stays the same, but they have some unique extra survivability. That's cool. They have their own bind. That's always nice. They have iframe in their bind though, so in party bosses you got to be a little bit careful that you don't use it when the bind is off cooldown and then mess up the bind timer for the boss. That's a little that can be a little bit annoying. But yet your own mages get their own extra iframe in 5th job, so that's always nice. And for bossing, you've got pretty decently sized AoEs and all that. And I don't think for bossing they're not very burst heavy. They're more like DPM. So they won't ever be posting like these giant burst battle analysis, right? So you have to make sure that when you're in a party that the party knows that you're not there to squeeze out all your damage in 40 seconds. You're there more to gradually, do the damage over time. You do have a lot of lines, but that's not as important anymore now with the Lucid change. But I think it's a solid class for like Project CRA. I had a pretty easy time learning and getting to being able to do CRA, despite the fact that I don't really like mage classes at all. It was definitely one of the more playable ones, I would say. But yeah, the worst thing about it is a teleport, and it's not that bad. I mean, it's still a teleport. So
yeah, and I mean too, like obviously I have to play it more. I'm only level like 27, so I feel like once I get to like 4th and 5th job and I get like more of the skills and start doing equilibrium and reflection gets better, like I feel like the class will probably be better for me as far as like looking at it. So I'm only basing it off what I've seen so far and stuff, but everything else, like I think the class late game, just from the videos I've seen, looks crazy good. Like I feel like mobbing it's one of the best mobbers in the game. And then
yeah,
like
once you get the
bossing-wise,
door and like the management of the door uptime, it's really good. Yeah, you have like a giant door in the map that just shoots out a bunch of damage over time. It's
yeah, and then there's that reflection. I forget what that 1/5 job skill. It's like that crystal or whatever, and it shoots out in like a cross formation.
Oh yeah,
or whatnot. Like there's
other conduit, I think. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so there's that too. Like overall, I mean, like I'm not writing it off just yet, just because of the teleport. But like I mean, like you said, I didn't know that about the like once you go in equilibrium that like you can teleport like crazy and whatnot. So that might be something that I look into as I level it. a
Yeah,
little
it's
bit
nuts.
further.
I mean, I can like log into it for a second, but you could basically do it in the air, even if there's no target. So you could like jump up to do things. You can switch directions mid-air. I'm on like really high ping, so it's probably not gonna look as good as it could. But and with the latest changes where they made it more client-sided, it got a little bit better for me. I'm probably at what is it? Oh, I'm at Monster Park. Yeah. Where do I have my thing? So this is like the regular teleport, right? Which is already, I think this is already good. Like it could be a little bit further, I think. And then the fact that it doesn't go like up towards portals. Oh, it does hit that one, but it doesn't reach that one, right? So it's pretty limited. And the fact that you can't like jump teleport, I think that's what gets most people. That's a bit annoying.
I think that was more or less my thing is because like I tried to I think I was playing Battle Mage and I was so used to it that like when I was trying to like jump teleport
Yeah.
I was like what, and then like I couldn't do it. And
going from Battle Mage to Luby is probably the biggest contrast. Yeah, Battle Mage's teleport is probably the best one. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like sitting there. It's like oh my god, like this is horrible. But yeah, I like definitely like I mean the range is still good on it, like the teleport, like just overall. But yeah, definitely the jump. So but when you're in equilibrium, you can jump up and teleport and do all that stuff.
I'll go into equilibrium. So you can like jump up, down. You can. I don't know if you could see it, but it's like obviously I'm not very good with it, but you can.
Okay. Yeah, see it here now.
It's very different. Like it's stark. It's night and day, stark contrast. If you can get it under control. Yeah.
It's like so much different. Yeah, just watching it's like it's 10 times better. Like it looks 10 times better when you're in equilibrium, which I think for the most part, like are you in equilibrium like most of the time? I mean, I'm assuming when you're bossing, obviously that's most of your boss damage, but like is that what you're
Well, that's where the
for
buff duration requirement comes in, right? So this one is it's just status begins. It doesn't really say how long it is. It's not that long. But as you automatically activate it and you get the bonus buff duration on, I don't know, are any Loomies in the chat? Like, how long are you in equilibrium when you have, like, let's say you got the mechanic, you've got an ability with, like, I don't know, let's say, like, the 23% or something, like the epic line buff duration, and you have your Legion filled, like, how long are you in equilibrium? Because, I mean, I imagine it's still, even with those extensions, it's like 40 to 50 seconds, but it probably feels quite long. And then you start working on like Baptism of Light and Darkness and stuff. A Liberation Orb is pretty strong against bosses too. You throw in the other conduits. Ender is just a wall of lines.
Yeah, because I saw like they have crazy amounts of like lines and stuff like that. Once they do, I can't remember the name of the skills, but like that one, it's like your main bossing skill with the
Ender,
they come across. Yeah, so just like that. I mean, you like pretty much blow up the map if you're mobbing, but two, if you're bossing, you do that a lot. Where I know it's like you do a ton of lines to whatever you're fighting.
Yeah, it's also one of those characters that if you do want to min-max and you want to make sure that you get all the value from your link skill grid, that you do get the level 210 just to to max out the IED link. That one's like staple base for pretty much everyone. So that can very easily get you into the realm of just trying from 200 to 210 and then seeing how you like it and seeing how you like the skills. So that is probably one of the characters that is like higher on the list of value to get to level 3 link on.
Okay, yeah, because I know that's one of these two, like where some of them, especially on here, are like level 3 links that I can get up. That training them to like 5th job and past. I could see more or less like if I like the class, or it's the same thing with Demon Slayer. Like obviously, Demon Slayer gets a little bit better on that end too, but obviously the boss damage link for that is really good as well. So
for sure,
just things like that. But yeah, so I mean, Luminous is definitely one I've thought about. I think that's probably one that I might try to train up during this event, like as I after my bonks and stuff, and just try to get it up to 131 to see if I can get a couple of those before the event ends, to try to just push it up as close as I can to 200. And I feel like it's once I get it up there and get a better feel for like 200 to 210, like because I've seen obviously like it depends on your account, but I've seen you like that new DA you made, you blew through like 200 to 210 in like a couple hours, not even. So, but obviously that's account dependent too. So I obviously have to get to that point before I can.
Start doing that. Like DA, for example, is a very good example of having very, very bad base crit rate. So if you fill up your Legion grid with crit and you get all your crit links, you can just completely nullify that downside, and you can just start hitting full crits on everything. And that's really the one thing. It's like, I wouldn't say like huge mistake or anything, but like you have points in bonus experience in your Legion grid now. Just filling out those 6 gives you like what, like is like is it not even 3%? It's like 1.5% extra experience, right? Like that's an additive bonus, so that like that barely even registers. But if you put it in crit instead, and a bunch of your non-crit hits become crit hits and apply critical damage, and you start killing faster because of that, that gives you more than 1.5% faster speed, right? So that's how you want to look at it. Like if your base damage is so strong that instead of 3-shotting, you're 2-shotting, then you're gaining way more experience than if you're adding 10% to whatever kill you're getting, because you're just going to be killing more monsters and killing them faster.
Okay, so I should just put so if we're like leveling my DA, because I want to get that to 210, and I'm pretty sure I'm done with that. So like if I was going to do that, just should I move that over from bonus XP to crit rate?
Yeah, I would do that in general right now.
Help.
Bonus experience, I would advise anyone who's building their Legion to not put anything in bonus experience until you have the crit level, like crit filled to the point where all of your characters that you want to play on get 100% crit, and until the critical damage is completely full. And then if you have left, and then the middle is just like used to connect the critical rate and the critical damage. And then if you have any left beyond that, then you can start adding into bonus experience, because the individual value per square in bonus experience is just too low. Like for comparison's sake, I'd always make this comparison to illustrate, but like if you have a 0, which I don't think you have, right, because of the start of your account.
Yeah, I do. I have one at 130 something, right?
Oh yeah.
I think it's 131.
So if you get the 0 to 200, your member bonus just for having the 0 on the board is the same as filling the entire bonus experience all the way up to 6k grid. Like that's the same amount of bonus experience.
Yep, and yeah, because that I was actually and does the 0 benefit from the event as well, from the night troop event, like as far as like bonks and stuff goes, or?
I believe so. I believe usually the restriction for 0 is that you can't make them like Mega or Terra burn. I think, but I assume... Has anyone done it on 0? I assume that you would just get the bonks as well, yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I think you're right on that. Because I remember seeing, I know you can't like, it's one of those characters obviously with being time limited. I think I saw in the patch notes that you can't use it as like the Mega Burninate.
Yeah,
like
the Mega Burninate, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that implies that it works differently, and then you start questioning everything. Yeah. It's kind of how that works in the game. Yeah, but people in chat said that you can bonk it, so it should be fine, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because I don't know, I gotta see where I'm at in the quest line, because I know at a certain point you can hop out of that. So I'll probably see where I'm at with it. And
chapter 2 is finished, then you can go to the regular Maple world, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So once I get that, and I mean, like the questing, like I feel like you level pretty quick with the questing and stuff too. So like even just staying there is not bad. But I'll probably focus on that a little bit too, just to try to get that up, because I know that's a big thing. If you get it to 200, it's like a huge, bonus for that.
Yeah. Well, that's why on the Legion and Lynx it's so high up on the list, right? Because like once you get the experience down, like those are really important, and then you start working on crit rate, crit damage, and then once you have those 3 like sets of things ready, and you start working on the damage percentage, you're already like in overtime. Like if the experience stuff, the crit rate and crit damage, if you have the baseline on those things, every new character you make is just going to start hitting like a truck. Like when you compare to the first character you made, a new level 5 character is going to do like the damage of the like your first character you made at level 60 or 70, like unironically, like the numbers that you see. So you can only imagine once they hit second job, third job skills, they're just going to go way faster, be way stronger.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Is like I feel like I mean obviously I have to build my stuff up more, and I think if I put that in a crit rate, it'll probably help a lot of my classes, because some of them leveling is like, I mean, you're still like 1 or 2, 2-shotting, 3-shotting sometimes. Like even though I'm like stronger now with Legion and Link, but even once I get to the higher levels, like I know eventually leveling to 100 or 100 to 200 is like the lower levels are pretty easy. Like you still level pretty quickly, and obviously it depends on the character, but as you get like higher damage and stuff, like flying through like 180 to 200 gets a lot easier once you get a lot of that stuff up there.
Yeah, so some stuff that I didn't see here, I guess that's good value. Maybe you hadn't taken that into account, but like, are you doing monster proc on anything?
So I was using Monster Park more for like So as I was doing my Zakum runs, whatever my highest character closest to 140, I was doing Monster Park runs on them to get them to 140 quicker.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the right thing I should be doing, but that's what I was doing just to like try to push them. Like I was doing that on my Phantom to get them to 140,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was going to do that on my Arc, but I did the bonks and stuff, so I'm like trying to just push that up there as fast as I can.
Yeah, honestly, that's fine. Like from an efficiency point, like they're great experience, right? And if you have the money, I would buy the extra runs just to get the extra experience on the lower levels because it's just really fast. Plus, the monsters are really weak, so you don't require funding to get the clears. It's different from map training in that sense. Same thing with Zakum. Like once you can kill him, you can keep killing him, and you don't need to upgrade anything. So it saves you a bunch of money, but you still get the same rewards and levels. Monster Park works in the same way. But the reason I do mention it is because I think it would be a good idea to open the boxes that you get and start buying the potions and start putting those in storage and picking those up on whatever character you're playing on. Maybe the gold potions for training and the green potions for extra attack speed, starting with those two. Because again, it's like bonus experience that stacks with everything from the gold potion if you're going to do at least half an hour on a character. Plus the green pot is going to give you an extra rank of attack speed. Plus if it do you know how like attack speed works and everything?
A little bit.
So we have a soft
Not
cap
like
and a hard cap. Basically, if you have a bunch of things that can boost your attack speed, but if you don't have something that allows you to break the soft cap, that's why it's a soft cap, you'll be stuck at an attack speed of 2. And basically, the smaller the number, the faster, with 0 being the fastest that you can attack. And one of those things, but the mainly accessible thing that allows you to break the cap is the green pot that you can buy from Monster Park in the shop with the coins. And so with those, so let's say that you're technically at 1, but you don't have a green pot on, you'll be reduced to 2, and you'll be stuck on 2. But then if you get the green pot, that gives you 1 extra rank, you'll break the cap and get the rank, and you'll be getting to 0, which basically means that effectively you're getting 2 ranks of attack speed. That'll be the case for some characters. And again, that combined with, getting stronger, and Legion and Links and everything combined, they'll just help you snowball and move through the things faster. Because if you need 3 hits to attack, but you could do those 3 attacks faster, then overall you're leveling faster again. So it's one of the things that you can use, by using the runs on the individual characters, you can still use to fund all your characters through. Just open the boxes, buy potions, and then throw them in storage. And then when you're committing at least half an hour plus, then take out some of the potions.
Okay, yeah, because I was using them like just when I was doing like when the Neo event was going on. For instance, I was using my Iran as because I was obviously trying to get him to 200 and 210 plus, but I was using him as like my grind character for all my Neo stones, and just because it was like an easy class to play, and you pretty much fly through some of the stuff with their mobbing skills
and good base damage.
So. Yeah, so I was using the green pot for attack speed. I was using the one for attack power, and then I was using the 10% as well, like along with like double XP coupons and stuff like that, just to like kind of push through it faster. So should I be doing? So just as far as like the Monster Park run, so should I be buying like get the 7 runs a day, like buy 5 tickets, do 7 runs a day on whatever character, just to try to progress them faster, and then
I would do that. Yeah. Because you'll get to the point where you can start building out and finishing up your main first, and then once you have your main, you can hardcore dedicate your runs to that character, so you can start working on the Monster Parker medal for the long term.
Okay, yeah, because I was like flip flopping, like I was doing DA still for like Monster Park runs for a little bit, just to like get myself to 210, but it wasn't really efficient because I mean you do get a decent amount, but you probably get more from mobbing than you do on that. So that's why I decided to switch it to some of those characters. Like I think my Hayato is probably my next up, so I'll probably run like 7 runs on that a day and just try to get up as quickly as I can.
I mean 2 days is probably all you need because it's a decent amount of experience. Yeah, you do like 1 Zakum, you do 7 runs, and then the next day, I don't know, you do Zakum and maybe 2 more runs, and you're probably 140, and then it's off to the next character. But then before you kind of like abandon the character, one thing I do is always like clean up the character before I leave, especially if you leave it for long term. Like go through the inventory, put all the mezzo in the storage, put all the kind of drops that you might need in the storage, like grand spell essences, twisted times, because these are things that if you leave them a little bit on all the characters, and that's why I'm saying this thing as well, like with opening the boxes and buying the potions and putting them in storage. a lot of times you can lose sight of how much value you actually have in your account by leaving a little bit on all your characters. And the way you have to think about it is like after a while you're going to have 40, 50 characters, and if all of them have like 5 grand spell essences on it, you have like 250. If all of them have like 100 twisted times on it, you have 5,000 twisted times. You know, and this is the way that you want to look at it, because if all of the characters have 20 boxes for Monster Park on it, you have 1,000 Monster Park boxes, which means on average, I think that comes down to like 6,000 coins, which is like a year worth of Monster Park potions. So you want to make sure that you don't leave too much behind, like a trail of breadcrumbs, because you're gonna have like a bakery worth if you put it all in the storage, basically.
Yeah, because looking, like, now that you mentioned that, and even like yesterday I was going through my characters, and that's like I moved all my mesos on most of my higher level characters, because obviously some of the lower ones I don't have a crazy amount, but like I was moving a ton of those. That's why I finally saw, I'm like, I have 675,000 like, you know, mesos,
Mil, yeah.
or
Yeah,
600 or mil, yeah.
way more than you thought, probably.
Yeah, I was sitting there. I was like, there's 50,000 here. It's like there's 70,000 here. Like,
Yeah.
just as like training and stuff too, just getting all that, and like even the cubes, like, because I was running on my DA, I was running Golux a lot to do, and you get like a ton of occult cubes just from like killing all the pieces, and I was just doing easy just to try to get like, you know, rings and pendants and stuff like that, and like I was doing that a lot, so I farmed a bunch of those, and I didn't know, like, some of the stuff I didn't know you could put into storage, so I was like throwing some of that stuff in there. But like now that you mention it too, I'm sure I probably have over like probably close to like 700 Monster Park coins just lying around, just from doing stuff on certain characters and whatnot, and just, you know, me not touching the character for a while. So I'll probably have to run through that and just move them all into my storage just so I have them in there.
Yeah, because in the beginning, you almost don't want to be too scared to like spend, because I think it's fine to spend on like character slot expansion, right? Just to make new characters, because once the character gets to 140, it's already made up for its slot like in double, and then the money will just circulate back. It's one of those like spend money to make money kind of things. So yeah, and like the Monster Park potions, you just evenly kind of buy them out, and you're like, oh, I have a little bit more of these. Okay, the next character I just buy mainly the gold ones. Oh, now I have a little bit too many gold, a little bit too low on green. Next character I'll buy more green, and you kind of just even it out. And then usually I have like a few of the red and a few of the blue. That's really only if you want to like min-max on bosses, or you need to push lower level characters just to be as strong as possible. But like the green and the gold ones are the more important ones to just be able to blow through the content.
Okay.
Yeah, so Monster Park and like character slot expansion, I think it's fine to spend money on those early. That'll always like they'll always return money. Maybe not immediately, but it'll always return. And then once you have a decent amount of money and you have one main character you're doing a lot on, getting like the 1 week teleport rock is always good value as well, because it'll just save so much time traveling around.
Yeah, because that's what I've been doing too. Like, that's why I have I would put a lot of my mesos into the storage, because that way if I have a character that I was primarily focused on leveling from like 1 to 70 or something, I would go to get the weekly one, and as I progress through the week, I would just, you know, have the hyper teleport rocks, so I don't have to worry about, you know, teleporting to certain areas, and I could just grind and do all that. But I should do, I didn't think about that, but I probably should do, as far as like min-maxing, just start using potions on a lot of those classes, just the extra 10%.
Just to speed it up,
Yeah, just to level quicker, because I mean, I was doing it without it, and I mean, it doesn't feel that bad, but on some classes you're leveling, it's like it could just push you a little bit quicker. Like sometimes I was doing, you know, if I get my daily gift of like the two times EXP cards, like I would use those, and I would level, like I'd blow through an area, and especially the lower level areas, blow through it in about like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, depending. Like you fly through like 10 levels
for sure,
and then you're already on to the next one. So but I didn't even think about that as far as like the damage and stuff goes. So I'll have to go on each character, probably buy a bunch of pots, you know, from different characters, and just throw them in storage so I have them for later on.
Yeah, the other thing is like potential scrolls, stamps. Obviously, you don't get that much at this level, but everything you get, or like tradable epic potential scrolls from like elite bosses if you get lucky, throw all of that into the store so you can at all times see like what kind of value you have available. The one thing with that is like an easy way to save money early if you do want to get some kind of funding on a character. If you find anything with potential, the low level equips, I would always like reveal it until you have an equip of all the different types of equips that has potential and then that has 3 lines. And that way you can use Transfer Hammer to transfer that over into your equips that you're going to end up using. And that way you save a lot on not needing any stamps or any potential scrolls, because a lot of times people kind of get blocked by needing those to make their equip stronger, when they're actually very easily available, because star forcing and revealing early on is very, very cheap, right? It's like 30k or something.
Yeah.
But like buying a stamp in the shop is like, I don't know, like 8 mil or something for a 50%. You know, it's just like astronomical difference, right? And if you don't have to use any of those, it'll save you a lot of money. So it's basically when you're going into penciler stuff, a lot of people are like, oh, how do I get potential scrolls? Honestly, when it comes to that stuff, just kill monsters a little bit longer until you find something with potential. That's more valuable than if you get something else that has like, 8 strength versus something that doesn't have any. Because if you get potential on it, like you use 1 cube and you probably get more. So that's when your occult cubes are going to come in. But you definitely want to be a little bit sparing with those in the beginning, and primarily use those on the items that you're going to keep for a while.
Okay, so like for the penciler stuff, so should I wait until like I get something with like, say I'm running maybe a Dell or something like that? Should I wait until I get something with strength, or are you talking about like if I get like just something with good stats as far as like, just for another character, just throw it in storage just in case I like, because I don't know if you can account swap stuff like that for different
No,
characters.
equips you can't swap equips. No, those are all per character. Yeah.
Okay, so just primarily just to find something, because if I get like 3 penciler like hats or something like that, and they all have potential, like just obviously open them up for 30k a piece, and then just if one has strength, obviously that's good. Just use that one for now. Or
well,
if it has
penciler
better,
would be considered like higher level. Penciler is I think close to 400k on the reveal, so that one you have to be a little bit more careful with. If you start revealing all the penciler you find, it's gonna like drain your money actually quite quick. So the main thing is like you would prioritize, like let's say you have 3 hats, and they all have potential. You just pick whichever one has the best flame stat, right? The green number, and then you just reveal that one. If it's 2-line, you can be like, okay, do I care, or is this good enough? You can like occult cube, roll 3% strength on the top line, and then that'll be good enough. Maybe give it a little bit of star force and move on. It always comes down to how long you're going to keep a certain piece, right? But if you know you're going to be maining a character, you won't really be wearing penciler for too long. You typically either do normal Hilla to move into Necro gear, or you'll do the Von Leon prequest to move into Von Leon gear, because those have flame advantage, so they get way better flames. And then for those items, that's the items that you save like the stamps and the potential scrolls for. That's where you want to use them. But all the other transient gear that you're only going to keep for a little bit. Either you find another piece, or you just are okay with not having potential on it and it's fine and move on, because you're not even going to dedicate like occult cubes to it. The problem is just that once you start increasing your baseline of like, this is the leveling speed, this is the one-shotting, this is the whatever that I'm used to, then every other character you're going to like be forcing yourself to invest more into it to get the same level of comfort, and that can get very expensive very quickly. So it's kind of to circle back on what you said before, like if you are okay with a level of not being the strongest, then it's all fine. That's something good to hold on to, because that's going to make you a lot of money in the long run. That's going to make it so that you can get by with way less investment than anyone else, and you're not going to be as reliant on like needing a meso farmer and needing to to like grind endlessly just to fund your habits. If you're okay with just as long as it's okay, you don't have to go crazy. You make upgrades when they're useful and necessary, not just because you can. And you have the patience to use your money during events and such, then that's going to net you a whole bunch of profits in the long run in the terms of just the average upgrade cost for everything, and the average time spent to get to a certain stage is just going to be lower than other people.
Okay, so more or less like, because obviously if I have a main and I'm just more focusing on that, it's more or less like, the 5, 10, 15 events, just, certain, like the, what was that time event with the potentials? I forget what it's called, but the one
double miracle time, DMT. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So stuff like that. Obviously, like I didn't get a chance to take advantage of those because I don't have a main just yet. But obviously, when I get into that, it'll be better too. That's why like some of these events, I know they kind of scale off what you're looking to do and stuff like that as well. So I'm trying to like focus on that too. That's why I kind of want to find a main, because I know too. Some of these events, especially the winter event's probably going to be a bigger one.
Yeah.
I might save up, like, just to, especially if I find something in the class that I want to play, I might burn it just so I can get it to 200 quicker and progress faster. And then I know, like, obviously, you get the CRA stuff, you get the Root Abyss, or is it Root Abyss? Or not Root Abyss,
Yeah, Serious
I
Chaos
got it.
Rudibus Absolab, you probably mean.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, the Absolab weapon. I know
Mm-hmm.
they did like the one for 220 and stuff like that. And then I know sometimes like, because my stepbrother actually plays and he's like a higher level. But he was telling me too, like some of the events like this, the Neo event had like a really good, was it a ring, a really good event ring that you could have bought
Yeah,
too. But I know that can't be.
fire ring. Yeah.
Yeah, so like you can't transfer stuff like that. So that's why like I want to like try to, especially now, like take advantage of the winter event when it comes around. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not like on a crazy time scale, but I'd like to, progress pretty quick and just find what I want.
Yeah.
Just to kind of invest
Makes
something
sense.
into to like get rolling. So that way at least it gives me kind of a head start on stuff like that too. So that's kind of like my mindset on that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you want to go through more of the classes then?
Yeah, so next up is Ilium.
Mm-hmm.
Ilium for me, I feel like I'd have to wait until I get higher. Just the play style a little bit's kind of like for me it's a little bit clunky, but it's too probably because I'm not a higher level yet. I think
Mm-hmm.
I only have Ilium to like 40 or 50 or something like that. So I don't even know if or no, I think I'm at 60. So I
Mm-hmm.
have like around second job skills. But just the fact of like moving the orb around is kind of like a difference to get used to. I do like the fact that of the mobility of like being able to fly around and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. I feel like looking at the fifth job stuff, like I forget what whatever that mode is where you fill up your gauge and you're able to like fly around a bunch and like pretty much
Oh,
blow up the
that's
map.
not fifth job. You can do that earlier.
Oh, is that fourth job? Or
Yes, I believe that's fourth. Crystal, or might even be third actually. No, yeah, it's third. Yeah, Wings of Glory. But it gets like empowered, and you can use there's a fourth job skill, like a Vortex Wings, that gives like a huge flap that does a bunch of damage. And it gets empowered in fourth job, but it starts at third job already. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so like just because I think once I get to that, I feel like the class gets a little bit better as far as like mobbing and stuff like that. And I've seen like Ilium fifth job mobbing, like it looks like really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching on stream you do the CRA runs and stuff with Ilium and whatnot, and some of the stuff too. Like I saw, like it looked like some of the skills and stuff just getting used to was a little frustrating and whatnot. Is that like?
Yeah, I'm not a
How do
mage
you feel
player,
about the
so
class?
for me,
Yeah.
well, yeah. So how I feel about it is that it does take some getting used to.
Mm,
The ping definitely makes it worse for me.
yeah.
You see, there's some high-level Korean gameplay you can see on low ping with them like mobbing around the map and like constantly moving the ball perfectly, and it looks amazing. The flying around is really really fun, and also really strong in bossing. And I think I don't know, of all the classes that CRA with, it's probably one of the classes where I'm most dreading it, and I feel that even with my horrible control, it was actually really really strong. On bossing, where I would expect it to be the weakest.
Yeah, because I
So
saw like I saw a lot of, and like obviously DPM doesn't really matter, but I saw like as a couple months ago when I was looking at like classes and stuff, like I saw it was kind of on the lower tier, but I feel like as people figure out about it more and stuff like that, it's definitely, I feel like, going up in rank as far as
mhm.
that. Not that that's really a factor, but I know Ilium's like a very underplayed class too. So
Yeah, they had a rough
just
start. They had a rough release. Whenever you flew, you could DC, and like all of the crystalline stuff was just basically inaccessible because of that, and everything was like a risk of crashing. And they were very squishy. They still have the squishiness. You have to kind of like sticky key, like double attack, to build the stacks quickly. And in some situations that's annoying, but you have a party-wide iframe of up to 10 seconds. They've got some cool stuff in their kit, and honestly, if you're into mages and they're pretty decently long range too, right? Like you've got that big spear that you can like throw basically across the map. They've got the big summon, the Templar Knight, which hits like an insane distance. And you have the option of like min-maxing through the map, throwing the ball around, and using that to like optimize the map. But you also have the option of just throwing the ball to one side and then facing the other side, throwing a summon somewhere, and just like holding down two buttons and everything just dying. So like if you want to be lazy, you can be. If you want to be more on top of it and you want to be more invested, you can do that as well. Yeah, they're probably never going to be like the top DPS, the top DPM, whatever, but I feel they're actually really, really strong. I was very happily surprised by their progress that they made since they came out, and investing a little bit of time into them. I would put him like at the same level, or maybe even a little bit higher, honestly, than Lumi when it came to the bossing. And mobbing wise, I would guess that they're probably similar as well.
Okay, yeah, because even like I saw Fifth Job, I think they were in like Future Period, and they were doing somebody would use, I forget what I think it's Machinima, whatever your like that big robot is in your Fifth Job, like you set
Oh,
that up on
Machina,
one
yeah,
side.
yeah, Deus.
Yeah.
What is it? Oh, Deus, yeah, name is Deus, yeah.
Yeah, and then you put that on the side, and then you turn around, and you have your ball on the other side too. There's that skill where I know in Fifth Job you like duplicate your ball, so like you can have one on the one side, one on the other side.
Yeah, you
just,
can do up to 3.
turn left and right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like just turn left and right, and it just like a ton of damage overall. So I think until I get it to Fifth Job, it's gonna feel a little bit different. So I think once it hits Fifth Job, it gets a lot better. So that's one thing where I'd have to like play it out obviously, and once I get it up to that point, see how I feel about it after that point. Because I do like aesthetically the class is cool. I like all the Fifth Job skills. The Fifth Job skills look sweet. I think just the ball would have to be something I'd have to get used to. I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, yeah. You get your own. Yeah, you have 2 built-in iframes, and again the standard mage iframe, so your survivability is quite good later on. But yeah, squishiness is definitely a thing. But you probably will find that right once you get into the arcane areas. Squishiness kind of goes out the window the further you go. Squishiness is basically like how many iframes do you have later on in the game, or do you have percentage item reduction later on in the game. If you have that, then you're not squishy anymore, right? Because everything is just arcane, and if you have the arcane power, like all the damage is just reduced to 1%, so it doesn't really matter anymore.
Okay. All right. So it's pretty much it is like
yeah, growing
pains.
Better, like, yeah, it's early.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so that's definitely one that I'm thinking about. I mean, some of these I'd have to probably like try later on and just see what they look like, because I think I've seen some of the Korean gameplay you were talking about, and like.
Wait, you can summon this in the air? Oh, I just know. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Apparently, you can put the robot in midair. I didn't even know that. That's new. Okay.
That's cool. Yeah, so that's something I didn't know either. So, but just watching like some of them, like it's crazy. Like some of the higher, like the multi-layered maps where it's like a bunch of levels, like straight down, like a tower map almost. It's like I just see them like flying around, killing everything, and it looks like cool. So, like that's definitely something I want to look into and potentially main as well. That's definitely why that's on there. And then next up I have is Xenon. Xenon I know is a little bit more of a funding class because of the all stat. But I do like their Fifth Job skills. Like I think Fifth Job they become like a way better, if you're funded obviously, they become a way better mobber. And the bossing is actually not too bad from what I've seen. So
it's mostly mobbing. Yeah, the bossing is rough. Like to set it up, you have like prep time. You have to offset everything perfectly. A lot of things have to go well for you to do good damage. The main thing for Xenon is that they have the capacity for like crazy damage, mainly in non-reboot because of the alternate levels of funding that exist there. And in reboot, you basically can only start scratching that level of like being strong if you're like perfectly funded everywhere. So that's why, since that barrier is so high, most people don't really reach that stage where they can comfortably do the content that they're designed to do. But mobbing wise, yeah, they have giant summons with very long uptimes, which is very useful for mobbing, so they can definitely get the levels. That's true. But yeah, funding wise for bossing, that's a huge point. Plus, yeah, it was a rough one for me to learn as well. Probably the worst class so far I've done Project CRA on. Yeah, it's pretty unforgiving. They did change a few things now though. They added some things to the buff freezers so that you don't lose those. That's quite good. But I mean, obviously you don't want to be dying in the first place.
Oh yeah, and like I've seen too the especially, I mean that's why like it sucks watching some of the videos because some of them are obviously non-reboot. So like, and I know when you're non-reboot, like you can obviously buy certain gear and like crazily fund yourself. So even at like a 200, you're doing crazy DPS to where you can one-shot everything and level like way faster. So
yeah.
It's definitely like
well, frenzy
like
totems can make it look better as well, right? Because they respawn monsters faster and create more monsters that can give you a little bit of a skewed result as well. The main thing with Allstat is like Allstat top line only exists in Epic, so all the while until you get to Epic, the damage you get from gear is really bad. And non-reboot has scrolling, which with like prime scrolling and stuff gives a bunch of all stat to all pieces and all the slots, and that adds up to like thousands and thousands and thousands. And Xenon just doesn't have access to any of that, so you're locked between all stat yeah, usually you try to go for like 2 lines of all stat and then anything useful, but 2 lines of all stat is already what you get stuck to. And yeah, they hit that ceiling when it comes to bossing, but when it comes to mobbing, yeah, they're definitely very solid.
Okay, so as far as like, it's probably a class that's probably super heavily funded too, from what it sounds like, just trying to get potentials and all that stuff as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Just, yeah, it takes longer to come online for sure.
I could probably cross that one off then, just because I feel like, as far as like you said with bossing and just stuff like that, I mean, it feels like I feel like in Reboot they probably need from what you're saying, they probably need a little bit more. I don't know, I want to say rework, but they probably need a little bit more just to get them above.
Yeah,
so,
some different scaling. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very similar to Demon Avenger in that way. Like the way that HP and the all stat scale is just not. It's not done with Reboot in mind, so they get hurt by it harder.
Yeah, so that's what I like, because I know, you were a DA main, right? At one point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I know, like, they just looking. That's the thing that sucks about some of these classes too. Is like, I mean, eventually, I feel like a lot of the classes, like, that's why I don't base it off some of that stuff too. Is eventually classes are gonna get buffed, and they're gonna feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know that's why I like some of these, like, especially later on in the list, with Jet too. I saw the changes for that as well. So that is a bigger potential main for me now. So. With that in mind, but yeah, so Xenon I could probably cross off. Demon Slayer is what I got next. That one, I mean, Demon Slayer I know is a very high tier class. I know they get what, like 2 iframes, I think. They do a pretty good amount of damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and their mobbing's really good. I know their bossing's very good. So I mean, that's definitely a potential main that I like. I like the class aesthetically. Like, I played Demon Slayer when it originally came out, which is like, I don't remember too much about it, but like I remember playing it when it originally came out, and I did like the class and everything. So
yeah, it's a bit of a there's a bit of a learning curve on like learning with your Demon Fury on getting good uptime on that. But when you get access to 5th job, and then you can basically rotate a bunch of skills to make sure that it stays up. And you can extend the durations and stuff, and you go for buff duration. So eventually you can make that work. There's a little bit of a learning curve on it, but yeah, that's also one of those things that with 5th job, class gets exponentially better because all the uptimes on all of the big buffs can be extended as well. And they got a little bit of a help with their Bane skill, which is the Bane skill has like an iframe at the end and does a lot of damage, but then you become invulnerable like right after the skill again, and that could sometimes kill you. So now you have like a little bit of invulnerability after the skill ends still, so you don't get like donkey punched by some skill that was already going on. So that's good. That's a good change for them.
Okay, so is that part of their, like you said, it's their iframe, so it pretty much afterwards it was, to the point where would you be standing still or something, and then the boss would just kill you, or is that what was going on with it, or?
Yeah, you'd be locked in one place and just do like continuous damage, but then you'd be immune during it. But then, yeah, as soon as the skill would end, oh, is this a Xenon range? This is a non-reboot. Yeah, it's got 2 billion range.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So that's probably what you have to reach to like.
Yeah, so this is like
do optimal DPS and stuff.
This is like with Domain, ROR4, Benediction, Totem from Mechanic, Overdrive, Conversion Overdrive. This Overload completely maxed. Dice roll 5 for more damage. Wild Hunter attack percentage, and then probably, yeah, and like the craziest gear you've ever seen, most likely in non-reboot. Like so, like yeah, you could do like insane damage, but I don't know. This guy probably could have bought like a house with the money he spent on this character, unironically. So that's like the other side of the flip side of the coin there.
Yep. And like that's the thing too. Is like I don't mind. I mean, like, it's funny enough. I'm actually looking for a house myself, but like looking at that, like I don't mind putting money into the game. I obviously don't want to go like super crazy with it, but like, to gain like certain gains and stuff like that, like I'm cool with doing that. I know, eventually, obviously later on, cubing's a big thing just to kind of min max and stuff like that. So that's down the road, but But yeah, I mean, Demon Slayer definitely like overall. I think it's like aesthetically it's cool. I think everything kind of checks out for that one. I do like that class a lot. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's definitely a potential main for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think talking about it, I think it's probably up there. It's a little bit easier, I feel like, to fund and get higher as well. So especially you're not worrying about mana and stuff like that too. So you can
Yeah.
kind of like change
It
some
could,
things around. You don't have to
and it
worry
could
about
also
certain
easily
things.
become a bossing mule because it gets a huge spike from the 5th. Plus, again, like Lumi, it's a good up to 210 as well. So even if you end up not liking it or you end up not going all the way, you can get value from it from a bossing mule, or your entire account for the rest of your life will get a value from it from the bossing link. So you can't really go wrong trying that one because there's always contingencies there.
Okay, so I can. So yeah, I'll probably try it after fifth job. If I like it after fifth job, then I could see it. But even too, like you said, I mean, even I could use it as like once I get to 250 on whatever character, even if it's that one,
Mm-hmm.
I could use it. If I don't, then I could use it as like a secondary main, and then just like use or a bossing mule, like you said,
Yep.
and just try that as well to see
Exactly.
like what it looks like and
Mm-hmm.
how it feels. Next, I like Dawn Warrior's up next. Dawn Warrior is like, I mean, overall, like the whole class, like mobbing, bossing, from what I've seen, I feel like it's the changes, especially too. The skills have gotten a lot better. The class feels better. I think the only problem is obviously the ping reliancy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just depending on how my ping feels. Like when I play certain classes, I don't. There's sometimes where I can tell there's lag because like I'll be hitting monsters and like I won't do any damage, and then like all of a sudden they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know how often that happens, but I know too, with your stances and stuff, that really has an effect as far as like your lunar and solar stances, like when you're swapping through and
Yeah, I mean, I'm holding
comboing.
the button down on with my ping, and it's like a nightmare because I'm like spamming the same skill 4 times before I land, and it's like this is
Yeah,
like
I see
absolute
the whole.
torture. But this is like 200 ping. But if you're sub 100 ping, you're like 80 or lower, it should be fine. I mean, your knockdown
Okay.
resistance now during this hit as well. But the main thing is going to be your big skills, right? You're like, look at this skill. Like, you can't go wrong with this. It's beautiful. Like this
No,
one.
yeah, and that like I like the class like definitely. Yeah, I like what is that Eclipse is it called? I think
Yeah, this
or
one, yeah. Big
yeah,
explosion at
that
the
like
end.
that one's cool. I like the is it Styx Crossing? Is that the one where it opens the rifts in the map?
Styx
That
is
one
just
right
like the
there.
standard skill, and then you have like the
Ah,
Rift
okay.
Empowerment, and that also makes it like spammable and doesn't cost any MP anymore.
Okay.
And then
Yeah,
another one creates like explosions randomly across the map as well.
yeah, because I saw they did that change where if you're in that now, it doesn't cost MP because I know they suck up a lot of MP
Yep.
and
Oh yeah, and you get a
whatnot.
Shadow
So
Partner you do it as well, yeah.
okay, so
That's
is
like
that
basically your 5th job kit.
see that's pretty sweet. See, like I like a lot of the, especially like aesthetically, it looks like a cool class. Like I like
Mm-hmm.
that whole concept of it, and like I think it's definitely a class that I could potentially main. Like I definitely like that. So, but if you think if I'm under 100 ping, then that would be okay then, right?
Yeah, like 80-ish, or like yeah, if you're like I think like up to like 80, 85, I think it's fine. Brandon has around 100. It's not too bad under 100. Yeah, I mean
Okay.
like yeah, I would say 100 at the highest though. I think if you go too far above 100, it probably gets like you just get more of this stuff where it's like okay, now it's doing it fine. Now it's doing perfectly. And then suddenly it'll just
You'll
look,
like skip out of it almost while you're like switching your stances and whatnot.
yeah. Like look, now it's going well for like 20 successions. And then it's like okay,
Yep.
this is perfect. And you're like, okay, I could do it. And then it's like, oh no, oh, and then it starts doing the same skill 3 times in a row somehow. It's like, yeah,
Yep.
and then you lose it, and
Yeah, and then because I feel like that's obviously I'm sure you lose a lot of damage and I
yeah,
don't know if it
yeah,
has any buffs or anything like that, but I'm sure you lose a lot of that, especially when you're switching. So
yeah. Well, you have Flare Slash is like a passive one that just triggers every now and then. There's like a big explosion. It's also very useful for mobbing. And then that one obviously like triggers reliably if you have the reliable attack progression because then you're just putting out the most attacks that you can. But if you start fucking up like this, the amount of attacks that you put out goes down, so the amount of Flare Flash triggers also goes down, and that hurts your DPS quite a bit.
okay, so in that one I'll probably have to try like up to like fifth job and see if I like it.
You'll like
Because
it up to 5th job because it's stupid strong. It has a bunch of lines. It's great. Yeah. I could just use this one, right? Like these two skills. They've got a really big hitbox, do a lot of lines. It's so easy to keep one-shotting with them. The base numbers are base numbers are very high, so
Crazy.
yeah, it'll with very little funding. Again, you just make sure that your crit rate is there, and then you're just steam wall to 200.
Okay, so this is a very easy class to like push through and level up very quickly.
Yeah, so if you want to make sure you cross it off the list early, then you could get started with this one pretty early on without needing your legion to be really big.
Okay, all right, yeah, because sometimes too with that, I mean that's obviously a nice perk to be able to level a class pretty easily. I know some of them feel like, especially some of the Cygnus Knights, like some of them I really like, but leveling them a little bit is tough sometimes. So once I get a couple of them to 140, I think it's kind of me calling it quits on them. But this one I definitely like. I think I would definitely like it past, 140 and over 200 and stuff. Just aesthetically and just the class in general. Like I like that it does a lot of damage and it covers a lot of everything. Like the mobbing's really good, and stuff like that. And again, not that DPM matters, but I saw that they were like higher on the list and stuff as they updated it. So they're definitely, I feel like, becoming one of the better classes to play.
Yeah, I just don't know how good their survivability is. It's probably the one thing that is a little bit tricky, because you have a dash, you have a mobility, you have like an up jump, you have a flash jump, you have the dash. But besides the dash, I mean, you have the fuck, what's it called? I just used it. The Soul Eclipse, right? And then that has an iframe on a startup and then at the end, but you want to use that for your burst and you want to use that for damage. So you can like strategically use it to get an iframe out of it, but I mean, it would have to overlap. You'd almost have to like purposefully fuck up to make sure that you get use of the iframe. So it's not really an iframe in that sense. So I don't know how the survivability is endgame, and I think that might be one of the reasons why people don't really go all the way with it. That and the mana cost and the maybe if their ping is a little bit too high, they're like, yeah, I can train it to 250, but bossing past this seems like it's not going to be the best.
Okay, yeah, so I'll have to feel it out. Probably around 200 and see what it looks like. Just to get the 5th job and just see kind of from there. But if bossing wise and stuff, it doesn't feel that great. I mean, it could be one that I'd kind of knock off the list just depending. So
could also become a bossing mule, I think, pretty easily because of the 5th job spike.
I could do that too, yeah. And then too, eventually, I mean, even if I main one class and eventually I get it up, I mean, there's always the potential of if it's a bossing mule for a little bit and I like it, then maybe I switch or something like that.
For sure.
So I mean, I could do that too. So I'll definitely mark that as like a 50-50 on this one here. So next is Kaiser. I know Kaiser's like Kaiser for me, like aesthetically the class is really cool. Like I like everything the final form. Obviously I know once you get to 5th job is when you start doing a lot better in mobbing and whatnot. Is there any like super cons that with Kaiser? I know there's some things or whatnot, but
I think the hitbox is still like a little bit. I think they're still fat, not tall anymore. That's good, but I think they're still fat with the hitbox. And of course, yeah, the reliance on the transformation. I haven't done Project CRA with it yet, so I haven't really gone too in depth. I think they look really cool as well. It's probably easily a character that I could enjoy playing, but I'm not 100% sure on. They mainly look really cool. Like I 100% agree with that. Like all of their skills. Like Bladefall is so fucking satisfying. It looks amazing.
Like even the fact of being able to like change your final form color and just like the final form in general is sweet. Like I think that overall, like that's why I played Kaiser, I think when it first came out, or like close to when it first came out, and like obviously it was like before the level changes and everything got higher, but like it felt like an okay class. But looking at like I watched Clan Kaiser's videos a little bit, and I was watching Sacrix play it. Obviously, it's not reboot, so it's a little bit different, but just the mobbing seems like really good. I know there's like pretty much a skill you spam for the most part, but just in general, the class to me is like really cool overall. And I know there's like certain pros, certain cons to the class. I mean, overall, it's pretty decent, and there's some things where it's just like meh. But I think the class is like something I could definitely main, something I'd like to main as well.
Yeah, I wish I knew more about the class to tell you, I guess. Yeah, I just don't have enough experience. The 5th job is pretty cool. If you want to blind yourself, you can always use this skill. Just it's always a fun one. Apparently the Dragon Blaze is really cool and is pretty strong on bosses as well, and that's helped round out their kit a lot from what I heard. So I'm excited to use that. But I haven't put it to use, and I got this one to 210 way long ago as well, when you only had one 5th job skill, so this is years ago. Because this is what was always like the best link skill for my DA, right? So that's what its main purpose was back then.
Okay, yeah, because I know with the whole health, buff.
Yeah,
and stuff,
percent
or
HP.
the health,
Yeah.
Yep. And I mean, like even looking at like some of the, I know, depending, some of it's a little RNG too. I know with I forget what the skill's called, but the one where you summon a bunch of the former Kaisers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
Depending on the bossing, that could either kill some of your DPS, or it could help depending on where they land. Obviously, it's very dependent, but I mean, some of the skills and like the DPS look very flashy and whatnot. So it's definitely one that I would think about picking up and whatnot. And is that, because I know you said too earlier with Lumi, is that something more or less you probably want buff duration for, as far like just
Yeah,
stay in final
in the
form
same way,
longer
yeah.
and whatnot? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that one I'll definitely mark, because I do like that class. So it's definitely something I.
Yeah, you do get a teleport,
Probably
which is
think
kind of cool.
Yeah, and the teleports. I mean, the teleports. I feel like very nice. I don't know. You can't do it like midair, can you? Like a midair.
You can.
teleport?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Oh, you can. Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So it's okay. So like that's something that I like too. Like I think that's really cool. Just like all the skills in general. And I mean, the final form thing is probably the coolest thing for me. So that's definitely something I like. But I feel like I'd have to just, again, probably same thing with most of these. Just play it longer and just see how 5th job feels, as far as something like that. But are they like a very strong class, like right off the bat? Is it like a very like
very early? I think they're probably one of the weakest. Like at like level, up to like level 70, 80, maybe even up to 4th job. Honestly, I think they're very weak. They did change the because there's like a link system, but I don't really know if it works and what you actually have to do. Like you would have to look into that specifically. I don't even know what it really does. I don't know if it helps. In some skills people use it, I think. But you got like like your 4th job as like a 40% IED skill just casually in there. You've got a mode where it blocks part of incoming damage, including percentage damage. So if you have that on, you would theoretically, like at all times, be able to tank everything 100% damage and lower if you're at full HP, which for survivability is of course amazing. They changed Grand Armor to be like a temporary damage reduction as well. That also blocks like percentage damage. So for survivability, that's nice. And they changed it so that you can use Blade Burst in the air. Like in the past, you'd have to stand on the ground, but now you can jump around with that, and that's like moved their mobbing. It made their mobbing way better.
yeah, because I think Blade Burst, because I was watching that's go right there, Blade Burst. Yeah, when I was watching that, I mean, I feel like that's one of their main mobbing skills.
Yep.
Just jumping around the map and stuff like that, which aesthetically looks cool. I mean, overall, like obviously I'm sure this class has to be funded a bit as far as like getting up, but they don't waste a ton of mana either, right? As far as like that, I don't think they're like
it doesn't look like it, no.
So I think that's definitely a class I'd look into for sure.
Just to circle back to that, by the way, like, you're talking about like funding and like using mana and stuff. So for Reboot, you typically use ginger ales. I don't know if you've found those.
Yeah, I was looking at. Is that the one that's in the? It's in the hidden spot. I forget where it's.
Yeah, it's in Showa now. They moved them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like percentage potions, and you just kind of like you regen that all, like in one go with pots. Back in the day, definitely like potions were like one of your main expenses, right? But that's definitely not the case anymore. They're like just like a trivial purchase at this point.
Okay, yeah, because as I would progress, like especially just through all characters, like I would buy like a certain, because I didn't want to spend too much money either, but I would buy a certain level potion, like as I leveled, like eventually like reindeer milk or whatever, and just stuff like that. Like I would buy, as I get closer to that and everything, and I mean obviously
those are very expensive for what they do. You just want to buy a stack of ginger ales basically and like throw it into storage and then pick up like that.
Yeah, I have to
Hmm.
do it because I think I wasn't high enough level. Like I think I would like try to get in there and I would die. So like I
Oh,
was
right, right. Hmm.
yeah. So like some of them I think that probably what I would do is like just hop on my DA or something, go in
Yeah,
there
just
quick,
teleport
buy a
in
bunch
there.
and just
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and just throw like a ton just so I have like a bunch on hand. Because I saw somebody talking about that in one of the videos I was watching too.
Hmm.
So I'll definitely have to do that.
Yep.
Um, Next is this one's like 50-50 for me. So this one I might even be able to cross off. But Wind Archer, like Wind Archer. Uh, Overall, like fifth job skills look crazy good. Like I just like and aesthetically they're just a very pleasing class. Like just all their skills look cool. But I know the buffing is the main part. Having like 17 buffs to buff yourself every single time is a little crazy.
Yeah, I've never found that as bad. Because on the flip side, the mobbing is very simple. So I mean,
Mhm.
if the buffing is a little bit more complicated, but you get I don't know. I just use two macros and then you basically have everything. I
Okay.
don't think that's too bad. Um, but they are in general like moving a lot of skills into becoming passive. That's like a thing they've been doing. So they'll do that more and more, especially for classes. Because the main problem comes when you get the fifth job and you also want to start accessing the decent skills, right? Then everyone else gets a whole lot of buffs. When it comes to Wind Archer, I mean, unless you're using the smack, you're not going to be really not going to be really using decent speed infusion. You're not going to be using decent sharp eyes that everyone else is using. So everyone else
Yeah.
already like catches up to buffs to you that you're not really using. Plus your own weapon booster. Again, like you're either going to use both speed infusion and weapon booster, or you're not really going to use either. So in that sense, people can either like catch up one buff or three buffs to whatever you're doing. So depending on your situation, yeah, like early on you have a lot of buffs, but when it comes to like end game, I think it
Mhm.
gets pretty close together. I think they're kind of like, in a sense, kind of like Xenons in general. Like Hurricane classes struggle a little bit in reboot,
Mhm.
because compared to KMS, we have the higher attack speed, right? Like what I talked about with the soft cap and the hard cap. So our
Yep.
soft cap is KMS's hard cap, which means that all of the classes are based around that damage output. And that means that Hurricane classes were limited by their attacks per second for their main attacking. That means that comparatively they kind of lose ground when it comes to GMS versus KMS.
Okay, and I know like usually they base it off KMS more if anything. So the changes that we get,
Yeah, those are
do
always
they?
balanced for them. Yeah, so it does mean that you need like higher levels of funding to kill, especially as a wind archer, because you basically have like the what I call the death by a million tickles. In a sense, you send out a lot of sources of damage. So
Yep.
because you have so many sources of damage, initially they're very weak. But once you get proper funding and all of those things individually start hurting, then your character gets crazy, basically. So you won't find them to be super strong early. They'll be very simple early, which can be fun in its own right.
Mhm.
Yeah, but they will require some funding to really come online. But when they do, they have like limitless possibilities. I think it's the first class that like soloed the black mage in TMS and stuff.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, I did see that. And like I know especially the mobbing skills, like it definitely feels like you said it's an easy mobber. Like I think I forget what that skill is, but that vortex skill where you throw it and it like sucks everything up on certain
yep.
platforms and pretty much just incinerates it, and then like you have like your the two, I think it's your hyper skill with the two tornadoes.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's that and everything. So I mean aesthetically like it's a really dope class. Like yeah, like that one right there. Like that's, I mean that's, to me, like it looks cool. Like aesthetically, it's a really cool class, and like
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely like potentially main it. But I think
When
I'd
their
have to try
crystal
it.
is really good as well. So they have like a puppet that allows you to distract bosses, and the bosses will
Yep.
attack it first. I think their crystal. I don't know. The marksman one was fixed now, but like historically, their crystal has been like the best puppet in the game, which for bossing is very good. Plus, like you can stay in the air very long with hovering. For a lot of boss mechanics, that gives you very good survivability, and you have an up jump, so like you can get out of a lot of hairy situations when it comes to bossing. Plus, that fourth V gives you a big shield that allows you to tank a whole lot of damage. Even though you don't have any direct iframes, your survivability is actually pretty good with the class.
Okay. Yeah, because this is probably like I think that's it. Yeah, like the only archer that like I really liked or whatnot
Mm-hmm.
overall. Like, and I was like, I really didn't like it at first, but after watching videos and just seeing people play with it, like it just seems like a very fun class too.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it's very easy and like you can cheese not cheese boss mechanics, but like just with them using your puppet and stuff,
Yeah.
it's definitely a lot better. So I mean, I won't write it off, but it's definitely something I feel like you said as far as damage goes and stuff like that. It kind of lacks a little bit just because of the which eventually again it might get buffed and it might become even way better. But
Yeah, it catches up later, but it's like it's very strong very early, and then it like falls off a bit. It needs a lot, and then it like really like picks back up and comes back, swings back basically.
okay, so it's like it's more mid game that it kind of like falls off a little
Yeah,
bit,
mid
and
and
then
early late, it's like a little bit in a rut, and then once you start finishing up late game and get to end game, then they can really yeah pick back up. Yeah.
okay, yeah, because I did watch the video on them doing the Black Mage, the TMS
Mm.
one, and like it looks like I mean overall like it's definitely I mean obviously it's strong, it's sold the Black Mage, but just stuff like that like it looks like a very cool class. And again, it's one of the two things like the range thing. Not that this game's very ranged, but that is something that is cool with it and whatnot.
Oh yeah, yeah, you like that.
So
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I mean that's something I can write down. I mean all some of these too like I'm like marking ones that I like very like, and some of them that like I still have to try and just kind of see, I guess. So
Yeah. You
just
haven't
going
seen
through
videos
that.
versus actually played it.
Yeah, so like and some of them I maybe played like first job. So like I don't have
Yeah.
like I think my wind archer's up to like 85 right now, so I'm only like was it third job? So I still have to do like I still haven't had fourth job yet, and obviously
Mm-hmm.
hyper skills are a thing too. So just trying to see all that, and obviously fifth's crazy, like a big difference for a lot too. So once I get that feel for a lot of these, then I'm sure it'll make my decision like a lot easier as far as what I want to main and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Just as
Uh,
a heads up, we did like already go over time, so maybe we should like try to blow through the last ones a little bit faster to so we can make sure it doesn't go too late.
yeah, we could do that. Yeah, I have three left. So next is mechanic. So overall mechanic, like I like the class aesthetically. I think their mobbing's if you're funded enough, their mobbing's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then bossing, I feel like they've definitely gotten a lot better. I feel like. What's your thoughts on that, like mechanic wise?
I guess I would put them similar. Man, yeah. So like when it comes to like damage and damage output and bossing, they kind of have like the Xenon problem where they like need the scaling. They do become more of. It's kind of tricky. They do their own damage, but like the only mechanics you see are like the ones that are really strong and the people who stick with it really late. And those people can do a lot of damage. But if people don't do that and they don't go like full on with it, they're basically just a glorified support. So it's a bit tricky. There's also a little bit of a ping issue with the firing the rockets because there's a lot of damage in those. And if you're, I think it's either sticky keys or like because of ping that the rockets don't fire properly and you can lose a lot of damage that way. But they well they have like a tower you plop down, everyone gets final damage. It's similar buff to how much damage you add to the party like as a battle mage. So they're a little bit more on the supporty side, and pretty burst oriented with like their giant iframe burst skill.
Is it that
Um,
like mecha carrier
yeah,
skill?
exactly. You do like
Yep.
a bajillion
Okay.
lines. Yeah, so that one has to full hit and does a lot of damage. So I wouldn't put them at, yeah, I wouldn't quite put them at like beast hammer level, like in terms of distribution between damage and support, but probably like more at battle mage level. But then battle mage does bring more to the party in terms of the shield. I would say that probably like late game and end game, if you get strong enough with the character, the mobbing gets really really good once the summons start killing things.
Yeah, because I know like there's like I was watching Sacrifice's video again, like some of the stuff it's mainly just like your summons, a lot of summons, like your bots and tots stuff, and then you just pretty much hurricane on like the other side of the map and
Mm-hmm.
like kill everything. But obviously you have to be like super funded for that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, once you
Um,
do have that, I believe that they possibly become one of the or the best mobber in the game. But then you have to have totem uptime and stuff, of course. So you have to contend with Kanas with that stuff.
yeah, so that one's definitely a 50-50 for me. I mean, obviously, funding is not a huge issue, so aesthetically I like the class. It's just I'd have to see more or less on the pink side of things, if,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, with the rockets and stuff, to see kind of how that is. Um, Next is Jet. Jet, surprisingly, I actually really like. Like, I didn't think that I would like Jet at first, because I
Mm-hmm.
mean, obviously there's things too where people said like, oh, it's it wasn't the best class, it wasn't really great and all that, and
It
but just
wasn't.
like yeah, it was definitely down low. But like even like just mobility, I like their mobility. A lot of their skills are really cool. I mean
Hmm.
that's and they're like I noticed. Obviously, I saw you talking about the changes. Like fifth job wise, I feel like they've gotten a lot better, and I feel like overall, just as a class, especially with that final damage buff, that definitely puts them a lot higher and just makes them a way better class overall. Which, in my opinion, I actually really like them now. Like looking at it and playing it a little bit, I'm not too high with my jet, but
Hmm.
I think once I get higher, I think it'll be a lot cooler, and like just easier to play with and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's definitely also a very solid level 200 for the critical damage. You just want that always for your account. It's very good. Yeah, Jet is one of those, like, I leveled them back in the day, right, when they were just basically garbage. Well, I leveled them very low, right, until when they were garbage, and then when they changed them and they made the Starfall, the AoE, they made it spammable and zero action delay, so people would just... You would just like spam potions, just hold down the button and just keep AoEing the map like 18 shotting or something, but it would still be fast. And so people just turned their brain off and did that to get to level 200 and never touched it again. And then, yeah, 2 or 3 the reworks that were kind of failed in between. They seem to actually be in a pretty decent spot now. I look forward to doing Project Syria on it myself. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of stuff on it that, like, on the surface it seems kind of but once you know what you're doing and once you're playing the character properly, I think you can actually squeeze a lot of value out of it. That'd be one of those classes where I would have to find people who are actually maining Jet and have played it a while to like get some advice on like what are some things that on the surface level you don't see at all, but eventually once you get into it, like this is like a lot of value, or this is something that really, in a certain situation, this can help you so much, and no one other class can really do this properly. Because if you look at the dojo rankings, like, I mean, it is, again, like someone who's going really, really hard, but there was someone on dojo rankings on their Jet, I think they were like top 10, and with how many people go hard in this game and how hard they push, that's pretty impressive, right? So that does mean that there's definitely potential there. There has to be. But I think they're like full 22 star and everything, but yeah.
Well, yeah. So I mean, like that's why a lot of those too. It's obviously depending on funding and stuff like that. Obviously, a class is gonna feel better if it's you put a lot into it. But I mean, Jet just overall, like just the pacing of the class and everything like that, just like at an earlier level feels really good. I'd have to get used to the whole like core aura thing. Like I don't really know too much about that stuff. I don't know if that has anything to do with like a lot of like especially the link and stuff, link skills and everything. So that just kind of like I'd have to learn a lot of that stuff. But I think Jet's definitely like a very fun class for me.
Core is pretty simple. It's basically like similar. It's just extra bonus stats similar to like how you would reroll your inner ability, kind of. It's almost like you're cubing yourself, and and you have potential lines basically, and you cube yourself to tier up, and then you cube until you get nice potential, and then you can lock it, and then you can share that through the link skill with other characters, so you get like an extra stat. Yeah, it requires some money investment, so you probably only do it a little bit later on in the game, but it ends up being a link skill that gives you like I think about anywhere from 50% to 100% more than like the Hayato link skill, for example. It can basically be like a double up of that if you just spend a little bit of money on it. Well, a little bit, like a few bill.
Okay, and then because even too, the crit damage, like you said too, especially with the Legion, is really good too. So that's another reason why I've been leveling that.
Yep.
As well, just to try to get that up there. So yeah, that's a potential main, and then lastly was just Shade. Shade overall, I know it's like Shade's a very simplistic class that eventually I feel like does a lot of damages and a pretty good support from what I've seen. So I think their 5th job skills make them a pretty decent mobber, or a pretty good mobber. And then I think their bossing is obviously pretty good. I think they have like a lot of final damage and stuff like that, from what I've seen.
They have I think they have the most percentage damage of any character in the game, I think. The thing with Shade is they seem simple on the surface, but I think it's pretty intricate on how their survivability and their like passives all work and how they interact. And learning that properly can increase your survivability to an immense degree. And of course, yeah, they're the only character in the game that can do something like split. Of course, the further you go, the less impactful that is. It just becomes a debuff on the boss, which is still useful, of course. And they can give party members a critical damage buff on bosses. You just keep debuffing the bosses like crazy. But yeah, we see a lot of shades doing very well. Guild has a bunch of high-level shades. People like the character a lot. I think for mobbing, it's typically pretty straightforward. People don't like super complicated mobbing characters because that's what you end up doing the most. So if something is like straightforward in mobbing, but they can hit decent areas and that you can get good rates, then people gravitate towards that. And if it means that you have good utility and you can survive boss as well, then that has a good combination of things that people like.
Okay, yeah, because even like especially, I mean, obviously mobbing is like 95% of what you're doing in the game. So like, obviously that's the thing too, is like if it's, I don't want to say more mindless, but like a little bit easier, it's probably better than like bossing is obviously, and that's what most games too. I mean, especially in WoW, obviously you don't pay attention to your rotation more or less if you're, unless you're
after a while you don't
boss
anymore.
fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then you start timing, you start calling out like timings on buffs and stuff, and then you rotate around that.
Yep, yeah. So that's why, like, especially obviously, I think it's more towards endgame bossing, but I like to eventually get into that when I pick my main and stuff, and just learn my class a lot more, just figure out the do's and don'ts, and just like when you should pop iframes, things like that. But obviously that's way later in the game. So, but that's something I'd like. I'd like to learn whatever I choose to play overall. So, but Shade, Shade is definitely. It's definitely up there. I mean, I'd have to, again, that's another thing. It's not bad if because I know that does crit damage too, so if I get it to 200, it's not going to hurt me.
Exactly, it's another one, yeah.
Yeah, so that would be definitely something that I'd look into too. So overall, I mean, I looked at, like, just after talking about a bunch of these, like, I've crossed a couple off, just as far as, like, maybe not completely wrote them off, but, like, just as, like, a 50-50, depending on how they feel after I get the 5th job. And
yeah, not a priority.
Where I want it. Yeah. Yeah, and two, I mean, most of them I can't go wrong with because they do give like a really good Legion, like especially mechanic at 200 is not bad, just things like that. So I think the biggest thing is probably just play a bunch of them more, try to get them to try to lock in more or less what I want to play.
Yeah.
Coming up on this winter event and just seeing that. Laura was a class that I did potentially think about. I know it's probably gonna be like stupid popular, but that was a potential throw in there as well.
I wonder how long people will stick on that. I think a lot of it will be like people leveling because it's a new class, and then you'll see a bunch of them get to like 210 or 220 pretty quickly, and then it'll just become AFK like Heneho characters because they have cat ears, I think. I think that's what's going to happen to most of them, to be perfectly honest. But
yeah, that's why the anima classes are cool. Like, I mean, in general, like just how Laura looks in general, like especially some of the newer classes, I feel like are pretty cool. Like that's the one thing. Like Beast Tamer looks cool. Like I don't mind the cat ears and the tail and stuff like that. Like, but just stuff like that. I mean, I think that it's a cool looking class. I'd obviously have to play it and see how it looks. But the summons don't seem too crazy, but the mobbing on it looks really good, and the bossing I've seen, it's more of a supporty class too, which I like. So
sheep ears. My bad. Sorry.
Yeah. No, yeah. So and they have like the horns and stuff too. I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So. Yeah, so it's like, but just stuff like that. Like I think that, I mean, overall, watching the your videos on it and just other people leveling it to 5th job and stuff when it was out, like it looks like a crazy class. So that might be something too that eventually, maybe I think about. Obviously, I'll level it when it comes out and just see what I think about it.
Yeah. Since you're a bit more, well, I wouldn't say picky, but that sounds negative. But like, since you're more on like it just has to feel good, and I just want it to, it doesn't have to be the strongest, doesn't have to necessarily have any of these characteristics. And like you said, most characters do fill most of the roles. Like they're all pretty close. So if like your enjoyment is more important, which I think is a good determinant to have, it does come down to just I can't say more than just like look at some videos, narrow it down, and then just try them, because it really just comes down to you getting your hands on it and rotating around with it and playing around with it a little bit and seeing if you can find your groove. And if you can't, then it's just not for you. Wish we could cut more corners and be like, well, what do you want? You want like a super high skill-based character? Okay, here's like 4 of them. Or like you want super high survivability? Like here's 3 of them. And then we can narrow it down way further. So in a way, this is a bit harder. But in another way, I mean, you probably live your life this way in other aspects too. And this is like how you're probably okay with moving through things a little bit more slowly, but a little bit more meticulously. And and as a result, ending up with something you can be more happy with, I assume.
Yeah, and like overall, I mean, once I find something that I like, eventually, like I'll stick to it, and I'm kind of free flow, so like, just the thing too is like that's why like it's having a list of 12 was, even just knocking a bunch down was good. Like I cut off like Cadena, Blaster, stuff like that, because I like having fingers. But just stuff like that, and like that's why like after talking too on this, like, and obviously eventually maybe down the road I'll do, maybe in a month or two I'll do another one with you and just see if maybe I'll at that point I'll have 5 only, or maybe I will lock down like what my main's gonna be and stuff.
Yeah.
So just stuff like that. So but I definitely like talking about it. I definitely see a lot of the pros and cons with some of these, and it's making me think about some of them more, especially in a reboot aspect. So I think overall, like, again, and it's probably just a play thing, like, if I play a class to 5th job and I'm like, wow, this class really feels great, like I could see myself leveling this to 275, then I'll stick with it. And 2, like you said, I mean, some of them it's better for Legion links, and then 2, even bossing mules at some point too could be some of these that I could just have and just keep. So that's definitely a potential too. And leveling something isn't going to hurt me in the end either.
No, I mean it could, depending on how much time you spend on it, but
that's true. Yeah.
As long as you find like a healthy balance, work life, whatever, then yeah, you're good. Like the whole process can be fun, not just like whether you actually are killing the black mage, but like the whole process there can be part of the enjoyment.
Yeah, and I like that it's like the grind obviously is like it's a lot, but I like that it's more satisfying. It's like once you work up to it and you get to that point, like the whole thing feels worth it. It's like I did all this to get to here, sort of thing, and like this is where I'm at. And then obviously at that point, just a lot of min max and things like that. So
yeah, and then you can also start deciding like, do I min max this character more, or am I just going to get to a point where like I'm happy with this progress and this is good enough, and then you start working on the side characters, because by the time you get to that point, you'll also start getting a bunch of resources, like potential scrolls, and the stamps and cubes and flames and all that stuff, where you can't really use them on your main anymore because everything you use is like way more likely to downgrade, or you can't even use them because of the quality. And then you can start trickling them down to other characters and slowly start leveling those up, slowly start funding those up. And then some of them might grow into their skin more, and you're like, oh, this is actually turning out to be like more fun. Like, I was kind of like on the fence about this one, but actually a little bit more funding makes this one way more fun. And then another character might be like, oh, this basically stays exactly the same. Maybe it was a good idea that it didn't choose for this one, and you'll get out of that confirmation or adorable open.
Yeah, and I think as I play them more, and like you said with that, like, I mean, obviously a lot of these are funding reliant and stuff too, so maybe if later on, if I see that I'm like, oh, mechanic, I'm like, this feels kind of clunky, and then I, start putting potentials and stuff like that, I'm like, this thing blows through maps, like, this is actually fun, and, there's, the skills feel a lot more refreshing and stuff like that, then eventually maybe I potentially either main that, or just use it as, like, some sort of mule that I play every once in a while because I like the class or something like that, so...
Yeah, and since it's such a personal thing for you, you'll just have to try them out. Yeah, not much more to it.
So I'll run. I mean, I think the biggest thing is I'll run through that. I'll try to level up a lot more of my Legion. Take that Monster Park tip that you gave on stuff like that. So just try to level those a bunch more and just work on some account stuff, but also work on trying to figure out what my main's going to be, because obviously the quicker I do that, then the faster I can start
Yeah, the arcane symbols. The arcane symbols is huge. Yeah, and the nodes, all the 5th job stuff is just power spike like crazy.
Yeah, and I could ask that in the stream, but also too, I can, like I said, probably in about a month or two, I'll probably try to set up another session with you and just, obviously show where I'm at and just see where, because obviously that part of the game too is kind of like crazy to me, so like I have to like think about that and probably talk to you about it, because some of the stuff is like I'm looking at it and I understand the concept, but there's a bunch of other little things that maybe I'm not paying attention to that I just don't see. So
if you have any questions or you ask in the chat, there's probably someone who's going to point to one of my commands, and then once you go through one of the commands, you go through a video, any question you have will be way more pinpointed into a specific thing, either something I specifically said or something that you feel is still not answered by the video, rather than like, how does X work? Because, I mean, like, where do you start, right? It's like, how do familiars work? It's like, well, I mean, I have a guide, If you go through that and you still have like additional questions afterwards, then yeah, we can go way in depth in that, and that'll also be way more interesting conversation for both of us to have. But if it's just like, what is X, then it's like, well, okay, so yeah.
Yeah, it's like I understand.
Here's
X,
the 45-minute
why?
PowerPoint on what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you said before. It's about the breaking down stuff every little way and whatnot. But that's, I mean, familiars is another thing too that I'd have to look into. But I'll definitely check out that video and stuff like that. Like I've been doing things as I go, so just trying to see stuff and especially with cubing and all that stuff too. So I've been just looking up all that.
Yeah.
Just trying to get a feel for it.
Yeah, just focus the thing. If you're trying to fund the character, so there's the Legion command has a little bit of a topic. One of the links in there is about like what kind of funding is like enough for a character. Like you don't have to worry too much, so that you don't overspend. And another thing is once you get to oh yeah, like what I talked about not like filling out all the slots, because I think you were kind of doing that with like Gollux on the DA, like trying to get the rings, trying to get the pendants. Like from time efficiency, if you're doing that to get stronger, it's not really efficient. Like what you want to do is probably try to get your weapon, secondary, and emblem to epic, and then rolling like for 6% attack with occult cubes. Like if you're gonna do anything, do that. And then if you have that done, you'll have made like 10 times the gains that you would have filling all your slots with shitty items.
Okay, and see that's things too where I'm like that's where I'm like kind of like I don't have the plan of like going through all that stuff too. So that's why I was kind of like, because I was watching, I think it was Code Knox's video that he did like 2 years ago, and he knocks out like what you should, like if you're at this level you should probably have Pencilier. As you get to this you should get your Commercy stuff and your Sweetwater stuff and everything, and just like your emblem and your symbol and all that stuff too. So like just getting all that stuff. And just kind of like having a plan of what I have to do is good, but obviously I can talk to you about that too as well. So
yeah, so that part I feel just flows more organically from like the commands that I already have. And if you use that as a guide, anything that's like super important you will pass by, and all the other stuff will just be optional, and that's totally up to you whether you want to do that or not.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm sure I'll talk to you about it at some point too. Once I figure out what my main is, and then I can kind of game plan to, what bosses I should be doing, what I should be like, what gear I should be aiming for next. If I should just aim for potentials, like you said, on certain things, and just stuff like that to try to progress faster.
For sure.
So, but all right, I think I'm probably close to my time, aren't I? I'm over my time, aren't I?
Yeah, you're over a little bit. Yeah.
Well, thank you for the session and stuff like that. I appreciate all the help and everything. So obviously I'll watch the VOD back if I just to go over some things and just kind of knock down more what I'm thinking. And like I said, I'll probably do another session in about 2 months or so, and just kind of update you and see where I'm at and just see what I should be working on next.
Yeah, I think you can get a lot of stuff just from the sources in my channel, from the commands, and just like go through them and then just like write down what your questions are, and you can just ask random people in the chat. Like 90% of the time they'll have a good answer for you, because they probably heard me answer similar questions or somewhat similar questions a bunch of times, so they'll already know what I'm gonna say anyway. So they're like a trove of information as well, for sure. So just don't hesitate to ask. Like a lot of stuff you can just over time. You don't have to do like one block where you get all of the information. You get a little bit over time until you get really stuck, and then you can be like, okay, well, how can we hash all of these things out that I'm stuck on, and then you can move on again. But you can probably move the stuckness a little bit by going through the commands and asking some people in chat as well. That'll help you out for sure.
Okay, yeah, because I know like the links in Legion one, the links one I have, but the Legion one I'll definitely pay attention to more too, and just like focus on a lot of that right now, and and then just do that, and then eventually obviously go through the other ones and stuff too. So okay, all right, perfect.
Okay, well, best of luck, and I'll upload it on YouTube so you can watch it back, and you can always reach out through Discord, or I'll see you in the chat, and then I'll point to you to a command, and then you can ask me the specific question afterwards. That's probably what's gonna happen, just like as a heads up, I guess.
Probably will. Yeah, I think that's gonna happen. So, but yeah, I'll definitely keep an eye on those, and I'll if I have any questions or whatnot, I'll shoot you a message on Discord or probably in chat. So like you said, I'm sure somebody will have an answer for me.
Yeah, most of the
Uh,
time when I read a question in chat, it's already been answered by someone,
yeah.
and then I could just like repeat it or be like, "Oh, yeah, that. Okay, yeah, what they said is true." Like that's what happened most of the time, or we give a little bit of
Yeah.
nuance depending on the situation. But yeah, that's mostly
Yeah.
what happens.
Okay.
All right. Well, good luck,
All
and
right.
I'll see you around.
Thanks. Sounds good. Thank
All
you.
right.
Have a good day.
Yes, you too. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Yeah, finding a main is never easy, chat. So hopefully they give you a little bit of advice. If you're completely new, not like, well, this is kind of new, right? You're just working on your Legion and your links. But if you're also completely new, you're looking for a main. I do rank in a giant tier list all the classes. I'm also constantly working on this, trying to reach out to people who play classes actively, because as you also saw in this video, I don't always know everything about all the characters, right? There's just too much to know. There's too many different classes, too many different niche things that certain classes have that I just don't have any experience with. And even if I did, maybe I played the class a year ago, the latest, and because of changes, they're just already different now. So I it's very hard to keep up to speed with everything individually. So I do want to diversify that a little bit, what's the word where you give like tasks to other people and you have them do things, and then you just oversee. There's a word for that. Delegate, yes. Like delegate a little bit of that in the sense that people will also be more entrenched in their own communities, be more actively looking for information and gathering information within their own communities, and hopefully in some way can relay that to me so I can relay that back to everyone so that people can make informed decisions on which classes will most likely fit them. But again, numbers are only numbers. Once you log in and you try the character, it can be for you and it could be completely not for you. It could just be a good match. It could be a bad match. So look for links in Legion. Look for what value the characters can have if you end up not continuing them. And that way you can always have a fallback. The value of the character will always come through for your account. It'll never be wasted, right? So yeah, hopefully this was useful for some of you. If you guys are looking for a new main, as always, for October, I'll be giving away 2 free sessions like these to anyone who is commenting in the YouTube videos that you would like to win one of these. So if you're in that, let me know. And if you want one of these sessions, you don't want to wait, or you have data for me that helps me inform the community, or you want to join the guild in Reboot, links for all of that are in the description of the video as well. And for all of the information that we looked at, you can find on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Scardor. I stream there every day, and I have almost 200 commands with information that you can use that'll help you get through the game. And yeah, we just try to focus on the journey, not the destination. If you have a specific destination in mind, that's cool. But we do also try to focus on getting the way up there, having fun, and trying to help you balance where to spend your time, and just having a good time together. So if that's something you're into, I'll see you on live streams. That being said, thanks for watching. That's everything for me for now. I don't know how long this video is, but maybe your totem is already over and you're still listening. Thank God.